Bridging the Gap podcast.
Right, okay, we are back. Bridging the Gap podcast, episode 3. And I've got the man himself, the man of the hour. Am I allowed to name your name? Or do you want to rename anonymous?
No, of course.
Mr. Matthew Moore himself. We go very, very far back. And
too far, man.
I was talking to my partner earlier saying I am concerned about the stories that you are going to bring.
I've got some dirt on you, but I don't know. If it comes out, it'll be organic, just know that. I was thinking because I have there's a few of us, right? But you are one of my oldest friends that I've known essentially since birth, give or take.
It's weird. You can't get rid of me. I remember you saying that to me because you went to college and then I ended up at the same college, and then you went to uni. I ended up at the same uni, and you were like,
"Yeah,
fuck off."
Well, I was a year earlier, but you basically lived at our uni house second year.
Yeah, right. We're 5 minutes in. You're already bringing up the stories we don't want to talk about. No, but it's been a long time. Firstly, good to have you back in the country.
Cheers,
we'll talk more about that shortly. But also, congratulations on becoming a dad. There's loads to talk about in this. I did check the storage that we've got. We've got like 13 gig. We could go for hours. Depends how long.
You've got more storage than I have energy, so that's...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We'll see if we can knack you out then. So where the fuck do we start? I think, for me, in a bit of a selfish way, we can get into all the crazy shit later. I just need to know more about what the fuck you've been doing for the past few years, because I just get little snippets. I mean, the reason we thought this would be an interesting one for anybody that's listening, shout out to Hayden's brother-in-law, is because Matty has been probably travelling more than anyone out of our friend group over the past, 5 years. And you've done some crazy shit, just stalking your Instagram stories and stuff.
Well, it escalated a little bit.
It did. Right. Start us off. Where did it all begin? Like when you first had your plans?
Okay, so we go back to 2018. I don't know if you remember the leaving party we had.
I do.
In the GC. So me and my partner Kimmy, we moved out to Australia. So I mean, at the time we were doing these corporate jobs. We were working together again. We always end up in these same situations, right? But we were both doing something we didn't really want to do. We just she rang me up one day and said, "Oh, should we go to Australia?" Very blasé, and I thought, "Fuck yeah, we'll go to Australia."
But just off the cuff.
Off the cuff. It's one of them weird things where you just answer it straight away, and then a few months later, no one believed us. I remember until the week before, my parents didn't believe me.
I'll be honest, I didn't believe you. Because we'd be working at the same place and you'd just turn up blasé like, "Oh, so," and I was like, he's living a good lifestyle. How is he saving for this? Like, I don't know. But somehow it was fine. You saved up plenties.
Well, we were saving for a house at the time, and we were going down this conventional path, and we were doing this, that, and the other, and we just thought, no, this ain't the one. Because we could have done that, could have bought a house, settled down, blah, blah, blah. But there was something that was not fully happy in both of us, right? And we used to have a good life. We were busy. Used to love going to raves, festivals, all of that. Oh, yeah,
I was there, mate.
But there was something that was just like, no, I don't want to just follow the status quo. So we thought, fuck this, let's get out to Oz.
Off on my gap year.
Bit late though, and we were the old. How mad is this? I was 28 when I went, and
were you? Was it 28? Yeah, it was. Yeah, shit.
And we were like, compared to other people travelling, we were the older ones. Everywhere we went, we were mum and dad to people, which is mad, right?
Were you?
But they're all like 18 and 19.
Oh, so they were on their gap year.
There's a lot of people follow that path where they'll finish their education and they'll be like, right, let's go find myself.
Yeah.
But so we flew into Melbourne, and we ended up.
Can I interject? Did you go with the intention of staying there for a very long time, or were you just going like, "Oh, we'll go for a month"?
No, we said a year. We went on a working holiday visa, so you have all the rights. You can go and you can work. You can get paid while you're out there, and you can move about. So we went with the plan of, we'll just go for a year. Apparently, a lot of people say they're just going for a year, and then you extend it and extend it.
Yeah.
Flew into Melbourne with our it was about £10,000 worth of saving, which was our house funds.
Yeah.
And we spent it in a month.
You spent 10 grand in a month?
It was, we might have had a little bit left, but it got to crunch time. And I was like, shit, I don't have any work yet. Neither of us had any work. We spent a lot of money. We had a great month.
I was going to,
But we got out and we were living, man. We were eating well. We were going to festivals, raves.
10 grand in a month. That's some Wolf of Wall Street shit. Maybe not quite.
Not quite, but it's... So, yeah, we got through it. And then I thought, shit, something needs to change. Anyway, we kind of moved on from Melbourne to Sydney, which we'd always planned to do, to go for the New Year fireworks and everything.
Yeah.
Spent our first Christmas in Australia before that in Melbourne, and honestly, I miss Christmas in Australia because you just go to the beach. You have a barbecue, you go to the beach. A lot of the time there's a free rave on the beach.
But I'd miss a lot of stuff about Australia, to be honest. I'd miss a lot.
No, absolutely, but yeah, that was it was nice, man. It was really nice.
So you got over there, you had one hell of a fucking month. I remember seeing the stories of you like longboarding down the side of the beach and stuff, and I was like, I was like, who is this person? Like 2-3 months ago, you were sat in an office with me going, oh fucking hell, but then you were sat eating lavish like lobster meals and oysters
seafood
and stuff.
platters.
Yeah, that was it, the seafood
absolutely.
platters.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, where haven't I gone? But then, I mean, I don't want to go too far into it yet, but a lot changed, didn't it? I know you ended up getting jobs, but what were you doing?
So, I've done all sorts of stuff over there. So we moved to Sydney. I went to stay with one of our friends, Toddy.
How's he?
Yeah. I've not spoken to him in a bit, but last time, a few months back, he was doing all right, mate. He's still over there. I mean, he lives there now, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's a transport planner, I think, something like that.
He's a city planner, or he plans roads or something. I'm not sure, but he's doing well, man. He's happy.
Good.
And I got a job. I got my first job, and at the time I was a bit desperate, and I was like, right, I'll do whatever. Got a job selling HelloFresh door to door in the Australian suburbs of Sydney.
What, with a strong Birmingham accent?
No, I promise you. But I've always been in sales mainly, right? But I've never done anything like that door to door. So I was walking around on like 40-degree days in the middle of summer, knocking on people's doors. Would you like with a fantastic HelloFresh offer?
So I've got gusto in there.
However, you know what? I rate it though. I actually do rate it, right. and people bought it, but it was these jobs, these schemes, they're ran by people who are making a lot of money, and they pay people pennies to go out.
Is it all commission based though?
I think I got a very small wage at the time.
Yeah.
And then commission on top. So anyway, I did that for a bit. I thought, like, I need some money. Ended up going to another company to do the exact same thing for a little bit more money.
Okay.
And then apparently there was a conflict of interest. I couldn't work for them. And all this stuff happened. And
a conflict of interest between those two companies?
Well, he used to sell HelloFresh for us, and now he's selling HelloFresh for them.
Wait, how good at selling them were you?
Not even that good. I don't even know what it was. But then they moved me on to selling charities, right?
Charities as an entity, or just...
So it was a children's cancer charity, if I remember rightly. I think they did like events for them. I never asked to be put on it, and I'm by no means against charities, but I just know how corrupt so much of it is. And especially they go in and they'll explain, oh, this is the scheme, right? You're going to earn so much commission, but it's okay because in the long run it balances out and the charity get this, that and the other. Here's how much we make for them on an annual basis. But there's something that doesn't sit right with me. If I'm signing, you're on the street, there was a woman that walked past us once, and she came up and said, "Oh, I'm so thankful for this charity. My son had cancer. He was there, this little lad, and he beat it. And it was like amazing. It was like I kind of let the other guys who were there kind of speak to a bit more. So it's a weird one because there's nothing in that way. It's very morally correct, but in another way, you want to sign up for the charity. Well, the first 3-4 months of commission are going in my back pocket, let alone what's going in the company I work for's pocket. I couldn't do it. It just didn't sit.
Well, do you know what? We got stopped in Manchester this weekend by someone. Obviously, we're just walking around the Christmas market, and out of nowhere, she wanders over and starts talking to Kay. I mean, I don't want to come across as a rude person, but I was trying to look at the maps, trying to find out where the fuck we even were.
Yeah.
And I could hear her talking to Kay. And Kay is too nice, she's polite, she doesn't want to just tell him to do one, all that kind of stuff. And to be fair play to her. And I just remember looking around and Kay going, "Can I just have the link to your website? I'll have a look at it later. I don't want to do it right now. I'm having a nice time." Great. And then as we walked off, she said a similar thing. She was like, "I just never trust that my money's going where they say it's going."
Yeah.
I feel like if I give them 10 quid, £1 would actually get to the person that I wanted to do. I'd rather just give it to people that need it myself.
Absolutely. And it's not all of them, but it's just like where things grow so big,
Yeah.
someone's going to exploit it in one way or another. But anyway, I didn't sit right. I was like, right, I'll knock this in the head. I signed up to loads of agencies. Long story short, it's very easy to find work in Australia. But as a backpacker who's fluid, moving around, sign up to an agency, make a good impression, they'll find you work. So I got a job at a construction company. I love working in construction because people are just like, they're just more chill, aren't they? They're just there to...
What were you doing?
I was a health and safety boy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bricklayer or something.
No. I've always been an office boy, I don't mind getting my hands dirty, but
Yeah.
I tell you, the first day I went in, there's this woman who hired me. She was called Charlene, proper Aussie woman. And I remember she was introduced to me around this office, and she said, "Oh, this is, I don't know what his name is, Josh or something." This is Josh. She said, I can't remember what she said, but she said something to him that was like taking the piss. And he was Asian, this lad, and he turned around and he went, "Oh yeah, that's right, take the piss out of the Asian lad." And she looked at him dead ass in the eye. She said, "It's not because you're Asian, it's because you're a fucking cunt, mate." And this is my first day, and I'm like, bro, I'm going to enjoy it here because there's just a rawness to it that, with a lot of Aussies, mate, there's just a rawness where they'll just speak to you like shit, but it's endearing. They don't mean anything by it.
I think that's the culture in a lot of places, though. Like Scottish people, they're kind of like that. They don't mince their words. They'll just tell you what they fucking think. But that's why you get a lot of funny comedians that are like that. And it's just very laid back people. You can talk to them in a real way rather than going down south and talking to London folk that might be a bit more uptight. And you're like, "Oh, fuck off."
I think there's a lot of PC culture nowadays, isn't there?
That's an understatement.
Well, yeah. So anyway, that was like, I was kind of set there, and we were in Sydney. We were living in the city at the time. I don't know why we chose to live so centrally, but
I know why. She wanted the nightlife.
It might have been a bit of that. It might have been. But they had, so we lived in a hostel. We went to this hostel and we were going to stay there for a few weeks, I think, at the time. We ended up staying there for 6 months. And me and Kim as a couple were travelling.
In a hostel?
In a hostel. We were travelling. We were staying in a 6-bed dorm. And so we were in single bunk beds.
Really?
Yeah. Which we tended to like. We fell asleep in one, and then she'd kick me out at some point in the night, thinking he'd jabbing me in the ribs. And I'd go out and spread eagle on the other one. But yeah, we stayed in there 6 months, and it was great. It was like really good vibe, like a family there. Everyone was just there for a good time. Do you know, everyone's travelling. Just
were the people that were there also there for the same length of time, or were some there for like 2 weeks and then go?
A lot of them, and you don't get that in a lot of places. But there was just a good group, and everyone loved it there.
I think I remember seeing you posting about that because didn't you have like a communal area where you'd all
on the rooftop,
yeah,
and you could see the bridge, the Sydney Harbour Bridge from there, if I remember rightly.
So what you were talking about? I'm just going to quickly move that.
Yeah. So. But yeah, no. We stayed there for a bit, and we just started exploring a bit of Aussie life. I felt a bit lost when we were there to begin with. You kind of know that you want to go and see this, that, and the other, but you don't know. Initially, you don't know how to make it happen. Especially when you want to travel up and down the coast. But we stayed there for a while, and you know what it is that moved us on from there is we were invited to Jack's wedding. Jack Kitson.
Oh mate, Jack's living the life. Those of you who are listening don't know Jack, but he was the most wild spirit I ever knew throughout college and uni. But he's what a guy. But he's living the dream now, isn't he? Travelling around. His kid's a fucking legend. By the look of it.
He's got two, hasn't he? 2 lads.
He's got 2 now. Oh shit.
Yeah, he's got 2 lads. And Jack, back in the day, he was a wild one, Jack. But he moved out to ours. Ended up finding the bird that he fell in love with out there. They're obviously married now. We went to their wedding.
Yeah.
And she does she's a pole dance teacher. Obviously, pole dance is huge for fitness nowadays as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he got into photography. So, I mean, you must have seen his work now, but his job, they now travel the country around Australia. I think they've got, like they used to have a Land Cruiser and like this trailer, but they've got a nice little setup. And they do like really mad photography shoots for pole dancers in the middle of the ocean, like with this platform or by waterfalls.
That's fucking crazy.
It's incredible, man. And I think like some of the images that he captures are class. And the thing that made me realise, I'm like, mate, you've like crafted this life for yourself.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but he was telling me there's a pole dancing magazine, and he was in the top 100 global people for influential people in the pole dancing industry.
Really?
Yeah.
What, his name? Like
His
Jack
name,
is literally written there.
Nicole was in there somewhere, but I think she was annoyed because he was higher than her. But no, they do great work. To be fair, if anyone is listening wants to see it, their Instagram's Jealous by Nature. Yeah.
I'll be honest, all I see, because I've just got him on Facebook, like personal Facebook, is him like fighting a snake or like
Yeah, he does a lot of diving and stuff nowadays. So we're in Sydney. So anyway, we flew up to Cairns. They were getting married in Cape Tribulation, so we went from the city life. Cape Tribulation's like tropical. Like, have you ever seen a cassowary?
A what?
Search up cassowary on there.
A cassowary.
It's a bird, but it looks like a dinosaur.
You're gonna have to help me with spelling there.
CASSAWARY, yeah.
Cassowary. Okay, it's a bird. Okay.
It's a bird. It's like an ostrich with a dinosaur head. It's probably like that's what I call it. But that, like, we saw one of them on the way in there, which is apparently super rare to see them.
He's grumpy as fuck.
Yeah, they're meant to be vicious as well. Like, you wouldn't approach them.
It's like an emu. Like,
yeah,
it's weird. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Anyway, so yeah, we ended up up in Cape Tribulation. Loads of people came over for that. We went to the wedding. And that was the start of us feeling like we're actually travelling rather than just living in cities in another place that's very westernized. And it's like there's many similarities between the English and the Aussies, right?
You know, before you started doing all these like little bits of actual travelling, like, so did you have to like do some of the construction work for a while, save up a little amount, and then go?
You save up, but they pay you a lot of money. They pay you a lot of money in Australia for basic jobs.
Because that's what would worry me if I'm going, right, I'm just going to travel up the country for 2-3 months and do this random shit. I'd be like, well, what if I get 2 weeks in and I'm skint?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it
fucked.
happens. This is the thing.
Right.
We do a bit of planning. I knew people who used to live down to the wire. They'd leave a place with $100 and they just would make it work. You meet grafters, mate, and I don't mean grafters and they're going to go out and work. I mean people. I don't know if they're street smart, if they just know how to. They have friends, or they just know how to play the system. I don't know what it is, but there's always a way to make it work, man. So we give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, but we never had that massive wedge that a lot of people had that allowed them to just be like, I'm going to go travel for 6 months, 7 months.
It's not that, daddy's paying for my gap year.
No,
you did it fucking properly.
There's a few of them about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from there, had some fun up in Cairns. We ended up then doing a mini road trip. We had to do farm work. So here's the thing.
I remember you talking about farm work.
Yeah, if you want to stay for a second year in Australia, it's changed now, but at the time you have to do 88 days paid farm work.
So you get paid for it as well?
You get paid for it.
Oh, that's right.
I ended up on an hourly job. I earned all right money. You don't get paid a lot of money. Let's just say that compared to other things. But you have to do it. You had to do it at the time to support that industry.
So 88 days, about 2 months. Oh, sorry,
3
just
months.
3 months. Yeah,
3 months. It took us 4.5 months. But I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Just. So we did a road trip. We did a road trip all the way down the coast to around about Sydney, and then we headed inland to a place called Mildura. And this is in Mildura, it's kind of like the equivalent of like a hillbilly, like American hillbillies.
Okay.
But
Trash.
But they, instead of hillbillies, they use the word bogan.
You're a bogan, mate.
Yeah. There's something in the water because these bogans, they're all about 6'8". Not all of them, but there's a lot of big, like burly, like bearded blokes who work on tractors and farms and this, that, and the other. That's the type of place. I remember we got there one night and there was a supermarket or not even a supermarket, like a shop, a small-ish shop that closes at 6. We're like, right, we don't have any food. This was a working hostel. There was one cafe that was just closing that basically sell chicken schnitzels, and that was it. So but anyway, we ended up on this farm, and you have to graft on a farm. Like I remember the first day we went out on these trellises, right? It's like this metal arm, and they were facing one way, and you had to smash the pins out with a bat.
Yeah, with a bat, not even like a hammer or something.
No. It was. I think it would have been like a piece of metal. I can't remember exactly. And then you have to use quite a lot of strength to push the lower end of the arm up. You're basically reversing them, so if they were facing diagonally one way, you push it up so it faces the other way. Put the pin back in. And then you move on to the next one.
What's the benefit of that?
So it's on. We were working on a vineyard, which is not. It's not dead fancy a wine vineyard. It was dried fruit. It would have been lovely to be working on a wine vineyard, right? No, it wasn't quite as beautiful as that. Especially the season we went in. It was. It'd all been harvested. We were in the. It was all dying, and we were waiting for the next kind of season to come in. Anyway, so you do that, and there's this rows. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these fucking trellises. So I did that for 2 days, and on the second day, and it's fine, like you have a good banter with people and that. The second day they come in and they say, "Oh, has anyone? I've got a question. Some jobs have come up. Has anyone ever drove a tractor?" And so, because I've got a big mouth, I was like, yeah, I've drove a tractor, and a couple of the other
fucking lie. You have never driven a tractor.
No, straight up, never. A couple of the other lads had like piped up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, when did you drive a tractor?" I said, "Oh, it was a few years ago." My uncle used to have one.
You what? Why? You're just digging yourself a hole.
But I said, "Look, I need a refresher, but I've done it." Anyway, so they put me on driving tractors. The reality is, driving a tractor is easy. But they're all hooked up to different bits of machinery, right?
Yeah.
And some of the machinery is. It's a doddle, and some of it's fucking hard. And they put me on the most, and I worked there for a while afterwards, but I could say by the end of it, this was the most difficult bit of machinery. Had about 8 different moving parts on top that were, you had to kind of drive looking behind yourself to look at the machinery, moving all these parts whilst driving at only 4k an hour, but just down these rows.
Are you Birmingham's answer to Jeremy Clarkson, mate? Is that what you're fucking telling me?
More like, no, it's not fast enough for Clarkson, mate. It's not fast enough for Clarkson.
Have you watched that though? It's a great program.
Oh, it's fun.
Clarkson's fun. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. So we drove that, but the first road that I did on, I tore through 3 of the base trunks of these vines, and they've been. I asked them how long they took to grow to that point. They said about 7 years. So I thought, fuck this, right? I put the equipment in. I drove it back. I said, listen, mate, I can't do this. Like you've given me a 30-minute crash course. Probably not even that. I said, I've ripped through 3 of them vines. I said, you can't put me on that. So anyway, I ended up on the tractors for ages, and I just kind of built up the skills to use the different bits of machinery. So that was great. But what's funny about the farm is no one really wants to be there. They enjoy it for the experience, but you get lumped into a hostel with 80 other people. Big communal areas, right?
80 people?
Yes, it was around 80 people. Me and Kim had our own double room at this point, so that was a nice little perk.
That's all right, yeah.
A lot of people who were just solo travelling or with their mates, they were in bunk beds in different bits.
Was it a nice building, or was it like tin can roof kind of thing?
No, it's just like it's like an old school hall kind of vibe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, it was nice enough. It backed onto a pub. And when you're on the farm, you don't want to be there. You just drink a lot of drink. You smoke a lot of weed. If somebody has it available, someone will get a nice big order of some sort of drugs, and you have a big rave in the middle of nowhere. In
the middle of the fucking vineyard.
Just in the middle of the town, mate. But it was good because we had like a real good like family vibe. Like you get to know everyone, and it's just jokes, man. Yeah. So I did that for a bit. I ended up feeling like I can't. The only downside is you're driving 4k an hour for 8 hours a day, looking at essentially you change roads, but you're looking at the same site, right? And some of the pros are great because I remember chasing kangaroos, seeing brown snakes rattling about on the floor, which can be dangerous. So it's like cool in many respects. but it drives you a bit doolally after a
Like
while.
staring at a screensaver for days.
Yeah,
But,
I'm like, has it been 1 hour or has it been 12 hours? I don't know where I am. And so I ended up changing. I started doing the irrigation, which was with another person, just going around fixing the pipes,
That's not bad.
driving quad bikes, driving like farm cars. But we used to take them to the tracks, mate, and we used to fucking drift them when no one was looking. So it's just jokes, man. It was good fun. And all while I'm doing this, and I'm getting paid one of the higher ends because I was on an hourly wage. I was working directly for the farm.
So at this point, are you still working off your 88 days, or are you?
Yeah. So every day I do.
So how come you ended up on hourly then, and others weren't?
So because the driving the tractor was an hourly job. The 2 days of doing the trellis work was what you call piece rate, right?
Okay.
And if people are out there doing things like that, or picking fruit, or pruning fruit, they call it piece rate. So every so many meters, let's say, you'll get X amount of.
So you're on price, then you're not on day rate or something.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And you have to do so much to count as a day. So I'm doing this other bit, and there's not always the work to do. And obviously, when the motivation ain't there and everyone else ain't doing it, it just doesn't always happen. So I'm doing my hourly job, and Kim's on piece rate, and some days there just isn't the work for her. So I ended up doing my 88 days, but she hadn't completed hers. So I carried on doing a few more, but she took the days that I worked. If that makes sense. We flipped our pay slips with the guys in the office.
Were they all right with you doing it?
Oh, it's not, mate. Everything's dodgy as anything. The bloke who used to run the hostel, there was controversy like a year and a half before we went there, because he basically there was a viral video around of this girl who was at the backpackers, just getting abuse from people, and it all came out that he was like having cocaine parties with all the people at the hostel. He was getting them to give his mates lap dances and stuff like this.
Shit.
And because of that, he wasn't allowed at the hostel. When we worked there, it'd all blown over, but he wasn't allowed at the hostel.
So he worked elsewhere on the farm?
You didn't really see much of him. He used to arrange the work.
He's just in a field on his own.
Right, so here's the thing. The hostel's in a town, and you drive 30 minutes to the farm. It's in the sticks, you know what I mean? Nothing's close by.
It's all them bogans about, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, bare bogans everywhere.
That's going to be my new insult.
So we did that. So it took us 4.5 months, and we got it done. Right, I'm gonna speed up a bit through the Australia journey, because otherwise we're going to be talking about that for too long. But we ended up from there. We moved back to Melbourne, and I got a job that was on the road. I could work anywhere I wanted. Just took my laptop with me, and we just spent our time going up and down the east coast, mainly between Melbourne, Sydney, Cairns, and just there was quite a few times where we'd hire a van. That was the best times in Australia, and when you hire a camper van, and you just to look up and down the coast, stopping off at beaches. You can park most beaches. Outside of the major hotspots, you can park overnight. You can sleep in your van. You can wake up, open your door. The sea's there. Go for a morning dip. Because of where it is, there's showers. There's public toilets and showers available in most little towns.
Yeah.
And it was just chilling, mate. Absolutely loved it. Loved van life.
Yeah, van life would be good, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing. You can't beat it. You can't beat it.
I think you live in the dream that most people want to do, but they realise it's too late. But like for me, I was like, no, that's it. I can't go just disappear into Australia. I've now got a child.
Well, this is
so I was kind of like, go have fun for me, please.
Yeah, when you get these anchors, like there are some things that you can't just up and leave. But even like when you don't have them, you feel like you're bound to the life that you know. Yeah. So we were a bit older, and we were like, oh, we could go travelling, but we're probably about 10 years later than we would have originally. Yeah, there's certain things that.
Well, I feel like that now. I feel like I've got to the point. All right, great, got a house, got a kid, got a good job, but I'm like, it ain't what I want to do though. But because I'm a creature of habit, I'm like, oh well, but that's what I know how to do. I've been doing that for nearly a decade, so I should probably just stick at it for security for the rest. And I'm like, how do you peel that sticker off and just go do what you want to fucking do, mate? It's tricky.
You say that, but as somebody who's known you for a long time, there are many things that you're doing now that you weren't doing the last time I saw you, or even the last time I spoke to you. So there's evolution going on in the background, but we don't always see it in ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Do you want to know something funny? You said something to me a while ago. By a while ago, I mean years ago. I've never forgotten.
All right.
And it was, you know what, Pete? You always get fixated on something and then do it for a while and then just stop. And I was like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, you did karate for ages when you were a kid, and you're like, you got all the way to black belt and then just stopped. I was like, and then you were doing music for ages, and then you just kind of stopped and went to like uni and stuff. And then I was like, he's got a point. He's like, you did the gym for ages, and then you just stopped. I was like,
man got hench as well.
yeah, now I'm fat, but I'm enjoying it. But yeah, and it kind of always stuck with me. So I was like, yeah, I need to see things through a bit more. I need to actually finish what I've started on a lot of things, but it's strange.
From the outside, it looks like you're doing that, to be honest, mate. So it's
yeah,
I think it's harder to see for ourselves sometimes. Isn't it?
It is. We're our own worst critics, aren't we?
Yeah.
But all right, I don't want to take us off piece too much. I did that too much on Hayes and my dad's podcast. We flip all over topics. So Australia sounds like it was a dream, apart from the brown snakes. But
no, it was great. Even the brown snake, I love seeing the wildlife. Absolutely loved it. That was one of the best parts. People were scared about they always say, "Oh, the spiders, the bugs, and this."
Yeah.
Some of the I've always liked weird fucking bugs, mate, and to see them, it's fascinating.
Is it because I've got family out there, so I have asked these questions to others before? But is it like people say, like you got to check your shoes every time you put them on? You got to check under the toilet seat in case there's something there, like.
You don't, but I suppose you always run that risk.
You got lucky
in a lot of places. You don't see them as much in the city, but I do remember, like even in the hostel in the city, like I saw a spider that was probably not a dinner plate, but you know, like a smaller, like a side plate.
Yeah.
It would have been about the size of that.
And that was dinner, was it?
Nah, I think that's Southeast Asia.
Oh, that's a question.
That's Southeast Asia.
What weird shit did you eat when you were out there?
Not that much weird stuff in Australia. I think I had crocodile jerky.
I could get on board with that.
So I remember when we were coming away from the wedding that I mentioned before, I remember someone had arranged to go to this crocodile sanctuary, and we all went as a big group, and we were like, yeah, come on, let's go.
Fucking Steve Irwin,
yeah, and there was all this of the wildlife there, but it was mainly centered around these crocodiles. We got there, and there's a tour that went on, so I'll go on the tour. And we're all looking at these crocs. It's great, like the ones that are in the first.
Wait, how big? Give me a perspective, like scale-wise.
I'd say probably 10, 11, 12 foot, so the bigger ones.
Fucking hell.
But it's a range, right? So the guy goes on the tour and he was just... he takes us to the other bit, the hidden bit of the, in inverted commas, sanctuary, right?
The hidden bit, what, like through the beaded drapes into the like X-rated part?
It was just in another section, yeah. And just picture this: there's about 6 or 9, like kind of like Olympic-sized swimming pools. They might have been a bit smaller than that, empty. And you look in, and they were filled, probably about like with just crawling on top of each other with baby crocs. It was not a sanctuary; it was a fucking crocodile farm that they were breeding crocs to kill and eat. And we had like loads of animal lovers there. And that was like, oh shit, we are not in the right place.
What? Wait, did you say 8 or 9 Olympic swimming pool size?
No, it was either 6. I remember even 6 or 9. It might not have been Olympic size, but they were these big swimming pool kind of things. And
I've just got this brilliant imagery now of you all walking in there, half the group crying, like, oh my God, and running out, and you just opening a pack of jerky going, fucking too right. Like, this is the freshest shit I've ever had.
Skinning a croc on the side. But yeah, so I saw some good shit out there. I forget where we were now.
Well, I've got a follow up to that.
Go on.
Was it during Australia it was Australia, the whole COVID shit happened?
Well, that's all right. So that leads me nicely to there. So it was in Australia.
Yeah, it was.
We were in Sydney at the time. No, were we? It's hard to remember.
I know you were in Australia because I remember you telling me.
So I think what happened, I think it might have happened when we were in Melbourne, but it stopped and started many times, right? So they had all these restrictions, you couldn't move, and then it opened up. And I think they had the restrictions on when we were in Melbourne, and we didn't really understand the gravity of what was happening so much. But then it opened up and we were like, fuck this, right, we've been stuck here, we're going to move on. We moved far north and then we ended up in Sydney. And yeah, it was surreal, to be honest. We were very fortunate because I had flexible work.
Is this when you were doing the can work from anywhere with a laptop job?
Yeah.
That's lucky. Can you imagine being on the farm when it happens? Like...
it wouldn't have been a bad place to be honest, because you still got to work there, right? I imagine they were still running. But yeah, it was weird. We actually ended up living on Bondi Beach during the worst of it. And because Bondi Beach is the most expensive real estate in Australia.
And you just fancy kipping there for a bit?
Well, the first time we were in Sydney, we lived in the city. We went back and we thought, why the fuck? We're in Australia. Why the fuck are we living in the city when we can live on the beach?
Is this it?
Yeah, and...
Oh, mate, for anyone listening, give it a quick Google. It's a fucking dream. You're like home and away's wet dream there, mate. What the fuck?
Well, have you ever watched Bondi Rescue?
No. Oh, wait, I think Kay has, though.
Yeah, so that's there like back in the day, like 90s maybe. But usually, it used to. So you see that photo there, and it used to be Ramo when you used to go down there.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, there's no fucker there. It's just the locals.
Oh,
and we just so happen to live there. And because all the rich people live there, they kind of let you move around your zones. So all this shit was going on. And down in Melbourne, people were getting pelted by rubber bullets in the city because they were going out protesting COVID. And we were thinking, what the fuck's going on? But we can just roam about and see all this natural beauty that's on a doorstep. I was waking up in the morning. I was going for a morning dip in the ocean. It was whale season, whale and dolphin season. I remember walking along the beach, all this movement in the water. There was like hundreds of dolphins, probably about 30 feet in, just swimming about.
What?
And regularly we would see whales in the distance, like breaching, swimming on their migration with their calves.
Fucking, it's really weird you mentioned that. We were watching, is it Our Oceans on Netflix at the minute. It's narrated by Obama. Like,
okay.
Weird for him to be narrating. I can see why they did it because he's got a cool voice, and it was literally that. Hundreds.
He's got to do something nowadays, hasn't he?
Yeah, take bribes. Long shot. But I didn't realise there was one bit where there was a group of like 100 dolphins. They said they can get up to like groups of 600 or something, and travelling across the whatever ocean it was. But I didn't realise, when they jump out of the water and spin and then land, they're doing that so that the splashes help them stay together as a group. They don't rear off. It's like they splash.
Okay.
But this was Obama that told me that. So if it's fake news, take it up with him, all right?
No, I'll be honest. I ain't even going to search it to check. I'm just going to take your word for it.
It's worth a watch. Anyway, more interesting, Bondi Beach. Come on, man.
Yeah,
the burning question, what did you fucking do?
So all this happened. Honestly, life just kind of ticked on as normal, but we were so aware of what was going on around us. And there was we did feel a bit ostracised from everything because you can't really leave. Yeah, you can't leave your area. There was just really me and Kim. We moved into a flat at one point, and it was such a blessing because we've been living in a hostel, and that comes with its own issues. In some of them are amazing. You get a great group of people, but you can never guarantee who's there. There was a guy in this hostel who was he's a bit of a freaky dude, mate. He was not long out of prison, Aussie guy, and he used to smoke crack in his fucking dorm room. I swear to God, and he would be like just like, it's making me sick to think about it, to be honest. I remember he was like just swaying, and he was this big fat dude, and he was just like swaying, like all fucked up and off his head. I remember me and Kim, we did an acid trip one day, and we went out and we were like by the beach and stuff, and we came in and we saw this guy stood in the distance. He was eating like...
Oh, you just sat on the beach tripping on acid.
Yeah,
did you not wander into the water like, I'm melting into the world?
Honestly, so we'll get on to... We'll definitely talk about some psychedelics in a minute.
Yeah. I'm more interested to hear how this travels into Mexico.
Yeah, but I wasn't... That was kind of... A few acid trips in Australia were my first dabble with proper psychedelics. Like, I've done many like party drugs and stuff in the past. But yeah, it was just like my first... acid never really sat well with me when I was younger, but I tried it when I was over there. Anyway, so we walked back into the hostel, and there was this yellow like aura around this dude. And it was like pissy, and it was like disgusting. And from then,
that's like on Sin City. That scene with that dude,
right? Like, this is the thing. I said to Kim, that's what it reminds me of. And I showed her a picture of him, and he was like, "Yeah, it was like that." She's never seen Sin City, but the backstory of that
weird. How it's straight away. That's what I thought. Though. The pissy kind of. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
And your man is all sorts of taps in that spot.
Oh yeah.
And so from then onwards, he was known as Yellow Belly to us.
Well, just go for Jeffrey Dahmer. Just call him that. I do. Fuck, he's got them fucking killer eyes.
Straight up, he was Yellow Belly, and to this day, I don't even know what his name is now, but he's Yellow Belly.
Yellow Belly.
So he's just one character, and there's a few things, but he pushed us out. We ended up in this amazing flat that I saw on Facebook. There was no photos on there, and I thought, I messaged this woman. We've been looking for some places, and they'd basically bought a house elsewhere. And there's a rule that you will get a shitload of money from the government if when you buy a house, you have to live in it for 6 months.
Yeah.
So they were moving out, but they wanted to keep their flat because they wanted to move back there.
Yeah.
So we got the most sick 2-bedroom flat on one of the most beautiful streets in Bondi.
So it was
For a
from Bondi,
steal.
near all the rich folk as well.
Yeah, so
Shit.
yeah. For an absolute steal, a balcony that wrapped around 2 sides of our apartment. It was honestly, we couldn't have had a better place. We could not have had a better place. And it was literally, I did a video once of when you speed the video up but I filmed it from my door to the beach, and it was like in real time about 3-4 minutes to the beach.
Or like a time lapse.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So I used to love it. We had our favourite spots. I bought myself a djembe, as my first djembe.
Wait, is djembe the kind of metallic dome thing?
No.
Oh no, it's the drum, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah. So djembe is like generally it's a large African drum.
Oh, I saw it when I came to your mum's.
Yeah. No, and my fucking dog put his big ass nail through it.
Did it?
I had to get it reskinned. To get it reskinned, it cost me more than the drum itself. Which was,
really?
But now I've got this like sick little goat fur trim around the edge of it, so I'm all right with it.
Suppose he didn't have alligator trim. Right?
Yeah, he was stealing sausages off my side, and he came off the side and put his big paw and nail through my drum.
Should have got a Shih Tzu then, mate. You wouldn't have this problem.
I know. So anyway, I used to take my drum down to the rocks by the beach, and I'd just have a beat away on it.
It doesn't sound real when you tell me these stories. It sounds like the kind of shit that you hear about in a film.
You know what's weird, right? And I loved it when I was there, but as amazing as everything sounds, everyone's always going through some shit, right? Yeah. So there were some other things that were eating away at me at the time that I didn't utilize. Like, I loved it, and I'm really like, when I reminisce, I'm like, I have such a good nostalgic feeling.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I fully appreciated it when I was there. Which is
why? You don't have to say.
Just honestly, just life things that are going on. There was the whole thing with COVID, how ostracization, being isolated, not really knowing where I was going or what I was doing. Like, there's so many little bits that go into it, but it's more about the generic feeling. I wasn't filled with life force at the time.
Yeah.
So I was living this on paper dream life, utilizing it in many ways, but also not to its maximum capacity.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that we did it, because I can look back now and I'm like, oh my God, like, look at this life that we had for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I hear you talk about and go, I'm never going to be able to turn around when I'm 50, 60 and say, yeah, but that was a fucking good time, wasn't it? Yeah, do you remember all that stuff? That I'm not going to have that. But I've got other stories.
Everyone's got other stories, isn't it?
But that is one hell of a fucking legacy to pass on. It's fucking cool.
Yeah,
but
thank you. But yeah, so that was class. So all this stuff, so back to the COVID stuff when it was going on, it was quite mad how the world went, just for everyone. I remember speaking about all different countries and how it must have felt.
Well, this is what's quite interesting, because I'm getting a perspective from somebody who was quite literally on the other side of the world when the same thing was happening. I know what it felt like here, and anybody who's listening knows what it felt like here, but it's crazy.
So here's the other thing. Me and my partner, we didn't get vaccinated because, I mean, I ain't even going to go into the why now, because so many people I speak to now will say that they wish to follow the same path. And if they don't, each their own, not a problem. Yeah. We made a choice. But what that meant is, when things started to reopen, we couldn't go inside the coffee shop. We had to order from outside. We couldn't go into a bar. We couldn't eat food at a restaurant.
Yep.
But I'm quite headstrong. My partner's even more headstrong, and we just.
You don't fuck about, mate.
Absolutely not.
Fair play.
So we knew what we wanted to do, and we were like, you know what, it's fine. We've got everything we want on our doorstep. We've got a beautiful place. We'll ride it out for a bit. Went on and on and on, and my God, how everything was just batshit crazy at the time. It just never stopped. Yeah. And so we thought, fuck this. I've had a great time here. At one point, I was thinking of moving to Western Australia to go back to study and do carpentry. So I've always wanted to.
You have, yeah.
I've always wanted to make things with my hands,
So you can cook tonight.
And I'm actually a good cook. I actually am a good cook.
We'll do it together, this one.
So anyway, we thought about that, and when you do that, it then extends your visa options and all loads of stuff.
Oh, so education would.
Yeah, so you can extend your visa. So we'd been there 3 years at the time, and our visa was coming to an end. We got a little bit of an extension, but we needed to find, if we wanted to stay, we knew we didn't want to come back to England in the middle of the shitstorm that was COVID.
Yeah, it was no better.
Absolutely not. And yeah, we just had to think, what's our next step? And the story about this was actually, I mean, honestly, thank God for Kimmy, because we went down to the beach yet again, and we took some magic mushrooms.
As you do.
As you do.
Most people go for a 99 with a flake, mate, but you know.
Ice cream man was on lockdown, what can I say? The mushroom man was not. Anyway, and then so we're both kind of, whenever we do psychedelics, we're both very similar in the sense it's a very kind of personal thing. It's not like, I don't know how people do it and go to a rave or go to this, that and the other, I'm surrounded. I'd rather be out in nature, like we'll come together, we'll have good experience together, but it's a very individual process. That's what kind of I believe, and Kimmy's the same, right? But she sat there and she said, why don't we go volunteering? Because we didn't know what we were going to do. We knew we needed to change something. And something that's always happened many, many times in our relationship is she's come with this little burst of inspiration. I mean, women are meant to be much more intuitive than us.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just naturally.
Kay is completely. I'm dead as a doornail inside, mate.
But the bit that we're good at is the logic. So I'm like,
it drives her fucking up the wall, my logic, mate.
but when you put that into application, so she's like, why don't we go volunteering? And I was like, fuck yeah. Let's do it. It's the same as like when she said, why don't we go to Australia? I'm just like, where are you getting this? Where are you getting this wisdom from? Because it's from...
So she's had this brilliant idea, and then your logic goes, how do I make it happen? But then the two, it's a catalyst for greatness, really, isn't it? But yeah, do you not think that's because of the background of planning? It usually does help.
Maybe. So we looked online and we found a website called Workaway, and they basically, you pay a small fee for a yearly membership so you can message people, and there are places all around the world that do all different sorts of things, and they have volunteer opportunities. So for instance, there's one we messaged in Nepal, and there was a guy, a community, and they were helping to build schools for Nepalese kids to build, I don't know what they were building all sorts of bits and pieces, right, but from the ground up. And in exchange for you going over there and helping, they would provide you food, they would your accommodation, they'd provide all your basic necessities.
Would you get a little something extra as well, so you could also live and kind of go and explore?
Not always, but we had some savings. Bear in mind, we were both working full time from home. We were on lockdown.
So you couldn't do anything. I think a lot of people were like that. Yeah.
We've been locked down.
So you didn't spunk all yours on Amazon Prime like I did then?
No, not quite. We did put a big fat deposit down to go to the Amazon and do an ayahuasca retreat, which we never got to go to.
To get your money back?
It's still sat there as a deposit.
Oh, shit.
So that is likely to happen at some point.
You best believe we're doing a podcast after that when you get back. You'll come back in like white robes.
So that's actually quite interesting. So we'd planned to do this ayahuasca retreat. It never happened because we couldn't travel at the time, and then it just got put on the back burner.
You couldn't get to it because of COVID?
We couldn't get to Peru.
Shit.
This was much earlier on. Anyway, so that'll kind of come back around in a minute. But so we're looking on this Workaway website, and we ended up finding a place in Mexico. We looked at a few different places. We looked at Bolivia at one point. I messaged someone in Jamaica, but all the businesses are closed down, because I'm thinking, could I go and live in Jamaica for a few months, just living it up? Absolutely.
Did you ever look at the kind of the background of the place you'd be going in terms of whether you would be in danger in these countries? Because like Peru sounds like the kind of place people that are coming from the UK would get kidnapped if like the wrong like militant tribe came past or something. Like.
So the number one criteria when we were looking for places was amongst all the COVID shit that was going on, how free were the people in there? How much were they restricted? How much were they taking away basic rights, the right to work, the freedom to move?
Is it purely because of COVID?
Yes, because everywhere was on lockdown, and we were like, we've had enough of the bullshit, mate. I want to go somewhere where I can just
be free.
And not just be free. Not
sounds cliche to say it, but it's awful that you have to say it like that because of what they were doing.
Yeah,
that's the weird
not have to fucking wear a nappy sack on a face and all, like,
which made no fucking difference.
It's mental. So we found a place in Mexico. Mexico was meant to be loads of people moved from Canada into the States to Mexico because of how they were handling it. And we had a call. We had a WhatsApp call with a Mexican friend of mine called Alan, right? He used to manage the volunteers there. First thing he does, he says, "Oh yeah, I'll just say hello to my little friend before we do this." Flips the camera around. He's got a plant on his windowsill. He said, "Yeah, this is Mary Jane." And I'm thinking, mate, this guy already, right? So I'm already getting the good vibes.
Yeah, I am.
And he did us a video tour of this place. It's called Finca El Pendulo. And it's in the middle of Mexico.
Called?
Finca El Pendulo. Like pendulum. So a finca is, you get a ranchero, which is like a working farm. And a finca is like a farm, but they make their money not through the animals. So for instance, this place has accommodation and they host events.
Okay.
But it's still a farm in many ways.
Yeah, okay.
There it is. What a place, mate.
It looks fucking cool. I mean, it looks like something out of a film again, not going to lie.
Honestly, a lot of people were telling us we were living in that 9 Perfect Strangers. I don't know. So he does a tour of this place. It looks incredible. They have horses there. We had, how many horses? I think we had 7 horses, 4 donkeys. They grow tequila plants there. They get like they grow agave from which they make tequila. They've got a pool. They've got accommodation. They have they're trying to grow their own food. They were growing a lot of it at the time.
Is that the pool?
That's the pool.
Nice.
That studio there, which you would have loved.
Oh, like a music studio.
So what? The lady who owns it, her son was into music production, so he had a studio there.
No way. I might message him.
Yeah, do it, man. They had loads of dogs, some cats. More will come to me in a minute, but we're gonna have a chat about that in a minute. But we so we had this chat and we said, listen, we would love to come there. Like, let us know if we can. And I don't know, I can't remember what we said straight off the back, but basically we found out very soon they'd be happy to have us.
Sweet.
We just needed to get there.
Yeah.
Now, this is in the middle of COVID, where you couldn't travel anywhere without a COVID vaccination.
So let the games begin.
Unless you're very, very savvy about it. So,
for those of you that are just listening, he's giving me this stare right now. There's like with the one eyebrow up, twisting his mustache.
If only I had a mustache to twist. Honestly, on the other side of this, we were so proud that we got through it, but it was a fucking shitstorm to begin with. But we found out that we could actually travel through certain countries without a COVID vaccination. It would have been really easy to go from Australia to Mexico via the States.
Yeah.
But you couldn't fly in and out the States. You couldn't even land
the
on the
Americans
airport.
were fucking crazy with it.
They were probably one of the worst in terms of restrictions, right?
Yeah.
They run the world and they do what the fuck they want.
They don't run the world. They like to make it look like they run the world.
You know how it is.
I mean, Trump might give him 6 months in power.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Big dog.
Yeah.
The big dog. So anyway, we had to spend twice as much money for a series of flights that took 48 hours. So rather than flying from Sydney to, I think it was LAX, and then into Guadalajara, we had to fly. Let me see if I can remember this now. We flew from Sydney to Dubai to Amsterdam.
Of course, Amsterdam weren't asking for it.
No, you'd be surprised. Wait, I feel like there was another flight. Oh, Amsterdam to Madrid and Madrid to Guadalajara.
Okay. How did you figure that out? Was it just Googling and doing some research?
Everything was just given this restriction, that restriction. But it was two. So the first airline was Emirates, which was into Dubai and then Dubai to Amsterdam, and then we were with a different airline that went Amsterdam to it might have been KLM, I'm not sure, but Amsterdam to Madrid and Madrid to Guadalajara. Now, everywhere we went, I remember we rolled up at Sydney Airport and we read the restrictions, mate.
Yeah.
We didn't get a test. We didn't even get a COVID test. So amongst all of that, we were like, we don't need it.
Well, they didn't work properly either.
Well, anyway. This is the fit, right? And it's going to sound so stubborn, but we just didn't need to, right? There was all these rules and shit, and if you read into it, you just did not need to do it. We got there and they said, "Oh, can I see your vaccination?" We're like, "No, we're not vaccinated." Oh, okay.
I'm deeply offended. Go stand over there, please.
Can we see your negative COVID test result? And I said, no, we haven't done one. We don't actually need one because of this flight that we're taking. We showed them. We printed out all the regulations. And I
played hardball.
I kid you, yeah.
Not like at a local Asda or something, but in an airport.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
I get onto it. I cruise like a beach. So... I kid you not, we were one of the earlier ones in the queue, right? The whole queue for the flight had disappeared. And the head stewardess was there arguing with us. We showed her everything that we had. And she said, well, basically, you're going to have... Her argument was that when we get to Amsterdam, we're changing airline. And so we're going to have to leave the airport to get our bags, to then re-enter the airport to check in for the next flight.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, we don't need to do that. She basically told us, you're not getting on this flight. You're going to have to go and get a COVID test and you're going to have to rebook your flight and pay for it all again. We stood hardball and we said, no, that's not the case. Here's the regulations. Right, I'll ring up the airport right now and and everyone had gone. She was like, shit, I need to go. And so we were incessant, mate. And I'm when I need to be, I'm good at being incessant.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Even if I'm not always right. In this case, I was, thankfully.
Wait, was Kim cool as a cucumber at this point?
No. Kim was shitting a brick. Kim's so good at the prep. She's so good at the research. This is again, like, you know, these complementary roles. Yeah. She's so good at all of that, and then when it comes to like having, and she's not weak by any standards. Like she can hold her ground, but to just be that annoying, just over and over. No, I'm not listening to you. I'm doing it. That's me, mate.
I wonder where
I got that role.
I've never seen that in you before at all, mate. We'll go to pool cues later. But, yeah.
I knew.
Yeah, that one has to come up with something.
Anyway, so as soon as I'm saying, I'm going to ring the airport, she said, let me see what I can do. She gets on the phone and she arranges for our bags to be transported in the airport so that we don't have to leave and come back in.
Yeah.
From there, we're like, oh my God, we were last ones on the plane.
Was everyone on the plane just fucking staring you out?
I don't even remember. I don't know if we held them up or whether we were just literally in the nick of time, but we had to. She said, all I'm going to say is this, right? You need to run. And we fucking ran for that plane.
Oh, shit.
It was mental. So we got that. And even when we were at Dubai, they were like, oh, I'm not sure if you can go past this barrier without your fucking test. Happened in...
well, even in Dubai, usually they're quite, like, you know, open to anything. Like.
But at that point, you needed a test, right? You didn't need your vaccination, you needed a test. Even there, they had that. In Amsterdam, they were like, oh, well, I'm not sure if you can do this. I said, look, here's your government website. Here's what it says. He said, oh, well, it's changing every day now. He had to check it. And he was so annoyed that he had to let us through.
I bet all of them felt like that, though.
It was ridiculous.
But I'm sorry, have you looked at the rules of what you can do in Amsterdam already? And you're like, you're being fucking serious.
So, yeah, and we ended up, we got there, we got to Guadalajara, and... bear in mind, because of everything that had gone on, and because we already had our own worries about all of this, right? It was a lot to think that we could do it, and it was a lot we didn't want to tell anyone, because as soon as you tell, especially parents, they then can project their own fear onto it. Oh, well, what about this and what about that? And I didn't want any of that. I had enough of my own going on.
Yeah.
So I remember getting there, and we got to the hotel we were staying at, and I rang my mum up, and I was like, yeah, and we'd been away for 3 years at this point. I said, I got something to tell you. She says, what? I said, we're not in Australia anymore. I don't know if
but she's thinking you're at the end of the drive waiting for you to turn up.
I said, we were in Mexico, and she was like, you're not. So it all came out then.
Yeah, but your mum was pretty sound. I bet she kind of laughed it off and went, that's fucking cool. Like, tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, we'd been away for so long. She was like, You'll come back when you're ready.
Well, I think she knows that you two are pretty street smart, and if you've been out there for 3 years doing it anyway, she's going.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've cut their teeth on how to do this now. It's not.
Yeah.
To worry about,
you'd
right?
think that, but because of all the shit that was going on, everyone was. I think
No
everyone.
one knew what was going on. I guess really, or what would be happening.
Yeah. And we got to Mexico. Let's take 2 seconds there, and we'll come back to it.
And we're back. Okay, right. So where were we? You just got to Mexico and told your mum, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So we touched down in Mexico. During the trip there, they'd lost our fucking bags on the last flight, didn't they?
No.
They lost our bags. So our bags were still in Madrid. We had to hang about in Guadalajara for a couple of extra days while they sent it out.
Shit.
It came out. They came out. They arrived. What's mad is amongst all of this, it took like I remember bumping into a friend from Australia from a few years before, in the middle of Guadalajara in Mexico, and it's like it reminded me. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, it's a small world." It's a fucking small world, man. Everywhere you go, there is somebody you know behind a corner. If you happen to turn left instead of right.
It's a weird perspective because I've obviously just been in Manchester this weekend, and you got to think I live here. It's countryside, little town.
Yeah, country boy.
But and then we got to Manchester and we were walking around. I was like, "This is huge," and I was like, "You forget how big the world is, but your problems back in this little town feel like the biggest thing ever." Then you come to a city and you go, "Oh, it means fuck all. Like, what am I worried about?" But then you're saying, "Well, actually, the world is really small as well. It feels massive in one way, but in a perspective." Sense it's different. I don't know. I can't explain what I'm trying to get at. But
I have another perspective on this though that we all are all. When you meet somebody, especially when you spend some time with them, you form a connection. Yeah, but there's imagine it like a physical, like elastic band that is going to always spring back into. You're just never going to know how fast it moves.
Well, isn't there's something to say that if you can stay friends with somebody for longer than a couple of years or whatever it is, then you'll always be friends. That's as if to say that it takes a few years for that elastic band to actually happen.
Yeah,
but then if it's someone you meet on a night out for a few hours, it's not. Yeah. Surely that's not the case. Yeah. But yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, so you got your bags.
So we got our bags, and then we got a bus to a place called Tepatitlán de Morelos.
Something tells me you like saying that word.
I love it because during the time we were there, I picked up a bit of Spanish. It's not the best. But yeah, no, I love it.
Hola, me llamo Matthew. ¿Qué tal?
Mateo.
Is that what they call you?
Well, Mateo? They don't call me Mateo, but you know, like it's the equivalent of Matthew.
Is it?
If you were gonna, yeah.
I will.
It's like Pedro. Like is your equivalent, right?
I will from now on call you Mateo.
I'm alright.
That is your new name.
So we got a bus to the bus station of this tiny little dusty ass town in the middle of nowhere, and then Alan picked us up, and he was such a good vibe as soon as we met him. We got in his car and he took us to the finca, which is about 20 minutes drive from this town. It's not long until you're on like dust tracks in the middle of nowhere, and then
did you at no point think Alan might just kill us here?
Honestly, the thought crossed my mind, like maybe somewhere, but I was like, nah, he's too friendly, he's all right. And then there's no road, there's like cobbles, but then you see this huge gated premises, and it was like several acres. This place was, I don't know how many acres, but it was big. And he took us in, and we were like, fucking, we are here. That was like, getting to Mexico was one thing, getting to the finca was a whole nother thing. And we had a tour, and it was just sick, to be honest. It was so good.
I mean, looking at those pictures, it looks like something you'd pay for, like a Maldives holiday or something.
Well, people do, and it's kind of like, it's not really somewhere a lot of people would go.
Yeah.
But they do for some reasons, which we'll get into in a minute. So he gave us a tour, and then afterwards we kind of had a couple of days to settle in, and then we started doing our volunteer work. Now, bear in mind, they had, for the actual, what you would see as work, they had a group of ladies called the muchachas. And they did all the cooking for the guests, not for the volunteers, but for the guests.
Okay.
The guests. They did all the cleaning and all the housekeeping for the rooms that we had on site, and just for the general areas. We had a group of blokes who did a lot of the building, because there's no planning permission. You can just build whatever the fuck you want, mate. So they would be constantly expanding and upgrading and doing this, that, and the other. So they were doing all that sorts of stuff.
Did they own the land then, or did they just kind of inhabited it?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
They had a guy who was looking after the horses at the time, and then we would help out with bits and pieces. But a massive part of the volunteers, and at one point we had like 16 of us. Generally, there was probably about 10 to 12. The lady who runs it is super spiritual. She's called Marina, and she's great, man. She's absolutely class.
Yeah.
But she just wanted, and whoever was there, she thought everyone was there for a reason, and she knew that everyone had something to offer. What that was would be different from person to person, but she would, if you wanted to do something there, she would support you in creating that. If it was a creative project, if you wanted to do something to sell on behalf of the thinker.
That's pretty cool.
The place itself, the story behind the place, it used to be owned by Marina's brother.
Yeah.
He passed away. I don't know how long ago, but he passed away, and she inherited the land from him. Now, Marina's got this whole backstory, which we ain't even got time to go into right now. But she's very spiritual. She spent a lot of time at an ashram in India.
What's an ashram?
An ashram, it's like you get certain gurus. It's like a meditation center.
Okay.
And this meditation center was an Osho meditation center. You might have heard of Osho.
No.
Your man was. There's a whole Netflix documentary on him, but he basically blew up back in the day, and he created a series of meditations that is aimed at the Western man, because he said the Western world, we're not meant to just sit there in silence and still. Like, it's so hard for the Western people to do that.
Yeah.
So he's created a series of active meditations that were aimed for the Western man, and he spread them across the world. He ended up creating a community in America. At one point, they wanted to try and make themselves their own country, but they blew up. Like, they had hundreds of people living there, doing these meditations all day, every day. I think they were having mad orgies at this place. He had like 9 Rolls Royces. They had a fucking landing strip for planes on site.
Yeah,
like,
it sounds like a cult.
It was no, honestly, it was though. But it's like, this is the thing for me, is wherever I am in life, I don't get so sucked into this person is this or this person is that, and false idols. I'm really against false idols, but the teachings that he spread out helped a lot of people and continue to do so. There's still a big following. Now, what's mad is she spent some time there. She then went back to Mexico. She inherited this land from her brother, and the land in Mexico is the exact opposite latitude and longitude as the ashram in India.
Okay.
The land that her brother had owned for many, many years.
It's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite latitude and longitude.
Could that be one of those coincidences, though?
Yeah, of course it could, but
it's she's just looking for something to relate it to. It could be that if you...
No, but whether she is or not, just that in itself is it's if you want to label it as coincidence, it doesn't really matter. But it's just that being a fact, right? It's mad in itself. And so this place, weird shit happens there. Okay.
Well, I was going to ask this at some point. But okay.
So she inherited this land, and she didn't really know. She always said she didn't know what she was building, but she just started building things. So there's a huge stone hut, massive stone hut. We've had a medicine music artist there, and he did a gig, and they probably had about 150 people in there. But generally for ceremonies, which I'll tell you a bit more about in a minute, they would have maybe up to 20, 25, 30 people sat around the edge, maybe sometimes an inner circle. So there's a massive stone hut and all stained glass windows. It was beautiful in there, like wooden beams on the ceiling, all straw thatch roof. Then there was like a place in another section called the Oracle, which was like a huge place with marble floor, and it had I can't remember how many stone pillars. It might be 12 big stone pillars around the edge that all lit up, and they're all different heights. They all meant something different. They all had different names. So there's just all this weird.
It feels religious the way you're describing it,
but it's not. What's a religion to you?
Interesting question. I say it's a certain set of beliefs that are set out by a single person. No, a single head figure that is usually passed away. That's the defining difference between a religion and a cult. The leader is dead. That's pretty much it. I've definitely heard that somewhere before. I'm repeating sort of it, but it's true. And but I think it's a set of beliefs that a group of people come together and decide to follow because they believe it's what's right or what's best for themselves or that group. I think just off the back of what you were saying, that you don't like false leaders, false idols. That's the one. I agree, but I think in that scenario itself, it probably did start off as a innocent thing, like he was just trying to help people, and it did work. But then along the way, things seem to always get corrupt because someone sees an opportunity to make money out of it. So that's why I never look at something and just go, that's a bag of shit, someone's just rinsing you for money. There's something in it somewhere, apart from Scientology. But,
I mean, they're getting their money.
I'm level-headed when it comes to all of this, to be honest. But, I mean, why? I guess the same question back to you then. What's your view on a religion?
So it's a set of principles by which to live your life.
Yeah.
But it tends to be quite... It's weird because I was speaking the other day about the difference between religion and philosophy. And to me, it's not... So take the Bible, for instance, right? Many people can interpret the Bible in a different way. The Catholic Church would decimate there can be many religious people who don't follow the Catholic Church because of history and what they've done throughout the world, right? I don't know. The genuine answer is I don't know fully how I would define a religion.
Let's do something weird, and that's the new god,
the new idol, mate.
Right.
This is ChatGPT, by the way.
Define a religion for me in one sentence. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
A religion is a structured system of beliefs, practices, and values centered around questions of existence, the divine, or the sacred, often involving rituals, moral codes, and community. Which I guess is just a very well put of what we've both just said.
And genuinely, there's a god involved. Also, there's one or many gods involved in most religions.
Well, there's kind of spiritual leaders. Because there's not just one, is it? It's like you had Jesus, but then you had fucking Moses and all his disciples and all that kind of crap, didn't you?
Yeah.
So there's certain levels of sacredness, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, well, there'd be prophets, right? There would be.
Yeah, okay.
So was it a religious there? No.
I mean, it didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just the way you were describing the buildings. I was like, it sounds, the way that they've gone for these pillars and gone, well, this one's for land, this one's for water.
It's not so much that, it's more... We did an exercise once where she said, ask a question and then choose a pillar. And not everyone knew how to read these things. It's more like divination. It's like you like tarot cards and things like that, which is not necessarily religious.
This is where we butt holes because I do not like tarot cards. I do not believe in it.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. But it's more like that. So we would ask a question, we'd go and she'd give you an answer. And then whether or not you believe that's entirely on an individual, right? You can not believe it. But I suppose just as a general thing, this place was beautiful, right? And there was these weird similarities. Where the Osho was built, which is this big stone hut, is where one of the horses gave birth to another horse called Fito. It was lovely.
Fito.
Oh, so do you want to know the names of the horses quickly?
Go on then.
Right, let me see if I can remember them all. So you got Fito, Dana. Dana's my girl. She was naughty. She used to open the locks herself and go on a run in the evening. She was fucking class. Gachupina.
Yeah.
Molote.
I like Molote.
Lilo.
Stitch. Sorry.
Not Stitch. Janice.
Fuck off, that was a Janice.
That was a Janice. And, what was her name? Yalida.
And
then we had 4 donkeys, which were called
Muchacho 1, Muchacho 2.
The donkeys were called a bulla, which is the female, the female word for donkey
Okay.
in Spanish, and burro, which is the male word for donkey.
Okay.
And then there was Jesus.
A donkey called Jesus.
Yeah, because he had
quite appropriate.
he was
actually,
found on
yeah.
the side of the road. He was tied and he was all malnourished and stuff. And she bought him, and he has like a cross on his back.
Oh,
He's not skinny anymore. He's a big boy.
a big boy.
And then there was a baby donkey, son of Jesus and Buddha, called Twinkie.
Twinkie. So you were gonna go. Sorry.
And my man was vicious. Twinkie was. He was.
A vicious twig. I don't even want to get into those stories, mate. But okay.
So right. I'm going to tell you a little bit. So this place was a because she'd been a student of Osho. That's what it is, more of an education. She would consider herself a student of Osho, not a follower of Osho.
Yeah, don't get me
kinda
wrong.
came to
I'm
me.
not discrediting it at all.
No, I get it. I suppose even as we're going over it, I don't think you're saying it in any sort of way. I'm just trying to define it myself as I'm going over it. Yeah. So it was a registered meditation centre. It was a site where people could come and hire a room and spend some time and have a holiday. People had events there, so there was a lot of engagements that happened there.
Oh, really? Was there?
Yes, there was.
Oh, really?
Yes,
What kind of? I wonder who could have had one of them there, mate.
So I proposed to my partner there, and it was very romantic.
You
as
soppy
mate.
piece of
Absolute
shit.
Casanova. I kid you not.
I mean, it is pretty well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, they did a lot of work for the local kids as well. So every couple of months they'd have all the kids and they'd have a big pool party and they'd have free food. But the biggest thing,
Get away from that Twinkie or kick you.
the biggest, I suppose, money maker for them, because everywhere's got to make money to survive, is they did plant medicine retreats there. Now, when we arrived
Plant medicine
retreats.
Is that the safe Google terminology for something?
So that's the literal, you would label it as plant medicine. I'll tell you what they are in a minute, but when we first arrived, they were, it was just for local Mexicans or just Mexican people, right? It wasn't a big earner, but it's blown up over the past few years, and they were just arranging some retreats. Particularly for anyone over the world, but particularly for Americans. So rather than these one-off events, they would do 7-day retreats where they do several ceremonies.
7 days? Does that mean like multiple doses?
Yeah. So
the Yanks getting fucked up.
so it's quite and right. So if I tell you what the types of thing that would happen during a retreat.
Okay.
The main thing there was ayahuasca.
Which I've heard loads of good stuff about. I've heard it's intense.
So for a lot of people it can be.
Can you just give us a quick background of what ayahuasca is? Because I wouldn't be able to define it for you quickly. You might.
So ayahuasca, it comes from a vine.
Yeah.
That is that grows in the Amazon jungle, in Peru and parts of Brazil and probably some other countries all around the area. And it is a natural form of DMT. Now, historically, for many hundreds, probably thousands of years, tribes in these places have brewed up this ayahuasca. They make it into a drink. I've heard it can come in many different consistencies, but what we had, it's like a thick kind of syrup. Okay. It's not enjoyable to drink, but also not the worst thing in the world.
No worse than Cavonia or something.
Now, in order for the DMT to take effect within the body, because if you were to eat the vine, it wouldn't happen. You have to also consume an inhibitor that stops. I think it does something like it stops the kidneys or the liver just breaking it down and allows it to come through as DMT, and it has psychoactive effects.
So like a similar concept to why they put some medications in tablet form, because the tablet stops the stomach acid from melting it away, and then you actually get the effect from it. In terms of an inhibitor, then, right? What is the inhibitor?
You're gonna have to Google the name of it, but it's another plant. It's another plant from the same region. They say, like all these, how like a stinging nettle grows next to a dock leaf.
Yeah.
These things happen. I feel like these things happen all throughout nature, where the things that are meant to be put together, they exist within the same vicinity.
Here we go. MAO inhibitors. Benzodiazepines can be used in emergency cases to manage overstimulation. Doesn't help. Just a quick one onto the back of this. You're saying it's a natural form of DMT.
Yes.
Is it, because obviously DMT is the kind of man-made version, is it the same strength? Or is it, because usually when you find things in the wild, they're not as potent, are they? So is that why people prefer the natural ayahuasca version? Because it's not as intense? And you can pace yourself, do a 7-day retreat, like you said, and kind of...
So in my experience of just seeing people, experiencing people like dabbling in these medicines, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'll come back to that in a second, right? So ayahuasca is the first one, and that's the most well known. Another plant medicine they do there is called bufo.
Bufo? I used to work with a bloke called Bufo.
Oh, I've worked with bufo. So bufo is, you've probably heard of the toad venom, right? Mike Tyson speaks about it.
Yeah, vaguely.
Bufo, that is a whole nother kettle of fish, but I'm going to come back to that. So
is that some wild shit?
So that's you smoke bufo in, like, you get in this mad, huge. Well, it's basically like a huge crack pipe, I would imagine. Right? I never smoked crack. Would you believe it? But imagine it's like it's built for purpose, but it's this large glass pipe, and you put it in the end, and you smoke, and you burn it at a very high temperature, and you inhale it. Again, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Another one that they do that is indigenous to Mexico that not many people know about is called samadhi. Now, samadhi. It's a state of consciousness that you can reach through meditation.
Oh, I've heard about this, breathing properly for a while, and you can kind of...
Yeah, but there is a plant medicine that a guy, and we've met the man because it's a recent thing. I can't remember the name for him, but he basically found... he's I suppose he would be a botanist, maybe. Yeah. Many tests, he found out about this molecule, or whatever you want to call it. It's from a plant called tonzanine. So it's from a Mexican plant, right?
Yeah.
And he had a series of facilitators. Again, you have to take an inhibitor for this to work.
Yeah.
And this is in pill form. And you would take a separate inhibitor that's also in a pill form. So he'd do whatever he does to it, crush it up into a powder, and that's how you'd consume samadhi.
Oh, so he still goes and finds it naturally in plant form, and then powders it down and creates the...
Exactly.
Oh, when you said tablet, I thought they were just making it in a lab or something.
Oh, no. So it'd be in a capsule.
Okay.
And that's another form. Now, if you put all three of those together, they're the three psychoactive medicines that we have. There's some other ones that happen, but they're genuinely for purging. I'll tell you about them in a minute. If you take ayahuasca and samadhi, and imagine, this was how it was explained by the shaman. By the way, there is a shaman who oversees and facilitates all of this stuff.
What was his name?
Humberto.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were going to say like Morpheus or something.
That's Mexican, but Morpheus.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Very mystical dude. So he explained. He said, imagine there's a mountain, right, and you want to get to the top of the mountain. Ayahuasca will take you through a grueling journey, right, where you have to battle to get to the top of the mountain. You are trekking to the top of that mountain, but you're going to get to the peak. But you're just going to have to go through some shit to get there.
Yeah.
Samadhi will transport you to the top of the mountain.
What?
So he said you can't always like say these things in numbers, but he will say generally, if you take ayahuasca as a 1, and that's not to say it's weak. Like, many people have very profound experiences on ayahuasca. Yeah. Samadhi might be a 5.
Okay.
Now, on the flip side, the bufo is a 10. In my experience, I'd give that a fucking 50, mate.
Really? Well, you've
add a 0 on, why not? So I've tried all these medicines.
Oh shit! Right, we're going to get into this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope people are strapped in. Let's just check time-wise while we're on. Yeah, we're about an hour and a half. So, we got time. I'm fucking...
Yeah, I got nowhere to be, mate.
Right, but I'm going to set the scene here a little bit. If you're anything like me, I have seen a lot of people talking about this shit over the past, 6 months to a year. Ayahuasca seems to be the thing to be doing at the minute, to go on a spiritual journey, and people come back and say that it's changed their life, they've become a better person, and they come to terms with certain things. There's also stories out there of people saying that it helped them overcome addiction and stuff like that, which is why I feel like it's got this this kind of big following, and that's why all the Americans are coming over to Mexico and stuff to do it. There's not 100% success stories from what I've heard. I've heard some people it doesn't work for. I've not heard about these other two at all, but I'm fucking interested in them now. But I think a lot of people are interested in it. But does it not worry you, given that you have the experience with these, that there's people that have never even had a joint in their life or something, like we were speaking about earlier, that want to go over there and try something this. Okay, can you just give me a brief... okay, so acid. You mentioned you had that on the beach in Australia. In comparison to acid, how intense is this moment? I don't know what to call it, compared to the ayahuascas and the busos.
So it depends. It's difficult to quantify, right? So just my personal perspective on this, acid's never really sat that well with me personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. My first psychedelic experience was with acid.
Okay, shrooms then.
Mushrooms is something that sat much better with me. Now, there's something inherent within me that if it is natural and grown from the earth, then it is more.
It's not there to hurt you. It's not designed to be.
Yeah, a bit of that, but it just aligns a bit more with me without even trying.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you. So when we first went there, bear in mind we've there's a lot of these retreats going on all over the world, but there is a bit of a fad culture about it.
Yeah.
But when you speak to people about it, you shouldn't just dive into it willy-nilly. They say that people will have a calling, and this all depends on like your spiritual beliefs, right? But they will say that people will have a calling towards these things. I spoke to many people who were fucking lows, mate. Such like real deep lows. Whether they like a lot of people who were had drug problems, addiction is massive. Yeah. Family bereavements, people who had gone through sexual abuse, just a whole host of things. Some people not. Some people were just were trying to figure out something that made sense for them in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in Mexico for 9 months in total. I'm still in contact with some of these people, right?
9 months. I thought you'd have been there longer. By the sound of it.
Yeah, wow. That's why we left is a whole story in itself. But let's just say I've seen some huge transformations. I saw a guy from arriving on a 10-day methamphetamine bender, being an arsehole to everyone he saw. He didn't know. He said he didn't know why he was there. He said that God led him there. And there was a whole host of shit going on with him. He just was not. He had like demons, mate. And I mean, like you say, all people he had demons. You could see there was some fucking demons in this dude. And that place healed him. I'm in touch with him now. He reconnected with his family after this. He made up like he's got a wife and 2 beautiful kids, and he like brought them to meet us afterwards. And he's just healthy. Your man's clean still.
Would you argue that, you know how earlier I was saying it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your troubles are the be all and end all, the most important thing ever, and then all I had to do was go to a city and start going, oh, actually I'm a bit of an ant in this massive system. But the journey that you're on about to the top of the mountain and the struggle that you go through during the ayahuasca kind of experience, do you think it gives people perspective? Like they get to the top of the mountain and they just go, fucking, like, life's more important than me.
It can do. Some people will say that they've see God, meet God, or Jesus, or a prophet, or
isn't Jesus the donkey? He just shook the ball, stroking it up. I met Jesus.
I've had people who were there who they've seen their unborn children, and they came as a couple. The man saw his unborn children. And during this ceremony, partway through, he told his partner who he was there with, and she was so upset that she didn't get to see them. You can ask the plant things. She asked to see these children, and she saw them.
You can ask it.
You can ask them, and you're not always going to get. The reality is, you're not always going to get what you want. It will show you what you need to, but if they're aligned, then you will.
Can I butt in?
Yeah.
I have a bit of a weird theory about this kind of stuff, and I'm not playing devil's advocate to just be a prick. I'm doing it because it's interesting. You know, if there's something that I'm a bit like tarot cards. Honestly, if some old woman sits in front of me with tarot cards, I'm going to slap her and say, "Fuck off, load up Jim Rummy." I'd rather play that right now. Like, I just don't believe it because I think it's really bad that you can go to a fucking circus in the middle of like Birmingham city centre and there's going to be some old woman that put some black makeup on and a wig and went, oh, something really bad's going to happen to you. And for the next 2 months, there's some 16-year-old girl or something that's terrified of traffic whenever she gets, like, I don't understand with that. I don't like that. Coming to an experience like what you're saying with a shaman, there's a whole lot more to it, and I agree with that. I like that. That I can get on board with. But as soon as you mentioned tarot cards, it triggered me a bit. But can you tell?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but right. So this is a bit off piece, but we're coming back to it because I'm fucking. When people say things like, what do they call it? Deja vu. Mm-hmm. I have a bit of a theory that obviously you've heard of concepts like short-term memory, long-term memory. Mm-hmm. And you've heard of concepts that you need to repeat something a lot of times for it to be moved into long-term memory from short-term. I feel like the concept of a deja vu is it's your brain. Obviously, you get these little triggers of impulses and signals between sections of the brain. We've all seen the cool-looking fucking science videos. But in the moment where a deja vu happens, I feel like something's like a shorted wire or something has just kind of gone, you've registered something in short-term memory. It is just fired quickly, just jumped onto long-term memory by accident and then come back because you've just experienced it. And that's kind of that loop has just made you go.
So it's all in that same moment.
It's all in that split second, but that's why you suddenly feel, oh shit. That's why you suddenly feel like, I've seen this before. And you're like, you haven't. It's just the time it takes for that to happen is split second. You're not going to notice it.
What about when you can place the other moment though?
Okay, there are other points. Like, I do get that. I find it's weird that, do you ever have those dreams where like a week later something happens, you're like, oh shit, I dreamt about that last week? I've had that before because I couldn't remember the dream until it happened and I went, shit, I dreamt about that 2-3 days ago.
When I think it's happened here and there. I don't remember my dreams that often.
Yeah, I can tell you why. I'm the same. Because Kay just does not understand it. Every day she wake up and she'll be like, I had the most in-depth, intricate dream. Let me tell you all about it. And I'm like, you can remember that? Like, I wake up like blackness, like just nothingness for 12 hours there.
It was dark.
Yeah, that's it. Although I did have a weird one the other day, but I'll take that. But anyway, on the topic of that, I find that it is interesting how we as humans can give explanations to things that might be literally psychological and biological mishaps. Like my concept there for a deja vu, but when we're coming to things like someone who's lost their child desperately wants to see them and probably thinks about them all day, every day. That's never going to go away. I wouldn't know. I'm not at that point. But do you not think that the ayahuasca is just leaning on something that they think about a lot? It's leaning into their memories and going, well, I'm going to just exacerbate that. And then if somebody's got demons, like you're saying, it's going to exacerbate those demons so that they go on some big old trippy bender. And then afterwards they go, oh, I feel like I dealt with it a bit because I've just been ignoring it.
So
I've just about managed to curl this back into what you're on about.
Yeah, no. I see what you've done there. I can understand why you think that. And you know what? In some cases, it can maybe it is drawing on something. My response to that would be, it does not matter if that happens sometimes. Now, it's definitely not all the time. People go there for a reason, right?
Okay, I agree with you.
People go there to feel better from whatever it's from. They just want to feel better. They want to be better. It's a sickness. They will go there with a sickness of the mind in whatever capacity that is. So it's like this whole thing about placebo effects, right? And it ain't that, I'll tell you that much. But even if it was a placebo effect, if you felt better at the end of it,
does it matter?
No.
It's a great point.
So I got but is it that all the time? Absolutely not. I can tell you now, the shit that I've seen, categorically not a chance. I'll give you one example. There's a lady who she was involved with the place, so we knew her well. I won't say her name, but she I believe she'd lost a daughter, like I don't know at what age or whatever, but way back when. And there was a girl who was volunteering there. They were both in ceremony. with many other people, and you wear blindfolds in the ceremony. It's a very intrinsic, like personal experience. You can take them off if you want, but
I feel like a blindfold would freak me out.
it's about going into yourself. It's not about the external work. It's not about taking some fucking acid and going looking at some trippy shit. It's about dealing with your demons or the stuff that needs to come up and out of you.
Yeah.
So whatever happened in her trip, she went back and she's seen this daughter that had an experience. The girl has gone in and she's had whatever experience she's had. They've come
really
back
weird.
to the room.
Can I just stop you? While you've just been moving your hand up and down there, the bulb in there's just started flashing. That's fucking weird.
That's the spirit, mate.
You've got the gift.
You.
You've got the gift.
They both took their blindfolds off, looked at each other, and as she said it, she said daughter to her, and she said mom to her. They've had these two different experiences that intertwine, right, perfectly, and both come back to the space, like, and blindfold off at the same time without touching, without being close to each other. There are things at work that do not make sense, and I still am very much, but I want things to make sense for a reason, or I need an experience to make me feel that. I won't just believe it just because somebody's told me. But when you experience some stuff and you see, and then you also see other people's stories, you just have. It's then a choice. That's what it is. Then a choice as to whether you want to believe that or not.
Well, this is the same as most people are skeptics when it comes to aliens. Let's be honest. And then as soon as they
I would say that nowadays everybody believes that they exist.
Well, okay, we're not getting into that right now. We can get into that, but what I mean is more the concept that most people, they're kind of on the fence going, oh, whatever, I've got work tomorrow, leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And then when something happens, suddenly they're like, okay, I get it. I believe now, it's my choice. I don't care if you believe me or not. Similar kind of vein, but obviously not with the alien sort of shit. But I'm all about this shit. And I definitely agree that if you think the standard scientific method and physics is all there is, you're fucking laughing, aren't you? It's the same as Hayde said on the last podcast, which, by the way, he'll be happy on correcting him because he messaged me the day after saying, oh, the grain of sand thing that he was on about is how many planets there are in the universe. It's not. It's, I can't remember what it was. Basically, it's even more than we were saying. There's even more planets than we thought. But
okay.
The fact that you think that something so vast and so intricate and complicated can exist, where there are solar systems and planets and black holes and all of this shit, and you think that we've figured it all out and we just understand it, like, fuck right off. I saw something the other day that they can hook two people up now and they can lucid dream with each other on a machine. And I'm going, mad. Are you telling me that there isn't some form of plant out there? Not going to name names.
I would say several, mate.
There's got to be some kind of connection.
So I got a question for you on this.
Okay.
Because they say with these things that these plants have spirits that are very specific for them. They say the same thing with marijuana, right? All these things have spirits. But
I've never heard you use the word marijuana. That was way too legit for you.
Nah, you just say that good shit, man. So they say with...
I'm just going to quickly pause us there. Right, you had a question for me. You remember what the question was?
I was speaking about spirits of plants, right? Or spirits in general. Do you believe in that as a concept?
Sorry, say again. Spirits and...
So they say that ayahuasca has a spirit, a common spirit, just like, and they call it like a tough grandmother spirit. They say, like, she's very harsh. She will help you, and she loves you, and she has your best interests in mind. But she's quite harsh. Whereas, for instance, in another way, like a mescaline, like peyote.
Yeah.
So that's
that
I've not tried
for the adrenal gland.
No, it's a cactus. It's a cactus.
Oh, yeah.
It exists in Mexico and much of the States.
Yeah.
That is meant to have the spirit of like a loving grandfather. I don't know if you ever watched the Netflix documentary about psychedelics.
Which one?
Oh, had all like psychedelic cartoons, and Sting was in it.
Sting was in it?
Sting was in it. I'll have to find it for you. It was great though. But he spoke about how he did these mescaline trips, right? Because
I've got some cacti in there.
I don't think it's...
Hold on tight, listeners. The podcast is about to get
wild. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on that concept, that these things can have common spirit themes that can come through to you as a human via ingesting and putting intention into that space.
I've mentioned this on previous ones. I am a very literal person. I always have been until, well, obviously there's not so much, but I think
you need an experience.
Well, the thing is, I have had experiences, so I'm not completely against all of this. That's why I'm very much. I'm usually a big believer of the scientific method, which is I have a hypothesis, I'm going to test it, I'm going to see the results, and I will draw my conclusions from that. And once I can find a test that I can repeat and get the same answers, then I'll believe it as truth. It's basically the backbone of science. Let me finish.
Go.
So, but I'm also a massive believer in if you can't prove it to be one way, that doesn't mean the other way doesn't exist. Yeah. So it's the same, like we mentioned religion earlier. You can't prove to me that God doesn't exist. So I can't, as a scientist, sit here and go, he doesn't or he does. We don't know. So if you choose to believe in it, fine. The things that I find interesting in the same vein as what you've just asked me, there are studies out there now where you can put two plants in the same room, same environment, or control all the variables and just play sad music at one and happy music at another, and one grows better and one doesn't.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
You had the rice experiment before.
The rice experiment?
Yeah.
No.
And you have to speak to one really nicely. You put these little jars of rice, take 2 jars. You have a control jar in the middle.
Yeah.
You have 2 other jars, and one of them, you speak to them like shit. You say that they're all the really bad things to them, like, you fucking awful, you're going to die. And the other one you praise and you say, oh, I love you, like you're the best thing, you're going to live forever. And what happens in terms of like how they deteriorate? Cooked rice, by the way, not dry rice.
Does that make a difference?
It's been shown to, yeah. It's
really?
Been shown to.
What the fuck?
It's weird. And that's rice, mate. That's just rice.
But what benefit do you see? Does one go mouldy quicker and one...
The one that you speak to poorly, well, yeah, it would tend to deteriorate and go mouldy quicker.
Weird. But there's other things as well. I think we're getting into a real tricky territory now in terms of what defines intelligence and kind of a living entity that has intelligence. Because if you think of it like this... have you heard about those forests that you can get where all of the mushrooms and the trees underneath the roots, they're all actually connected, and if you've got one tree that's fallen down, the trees around it will actually help it stay alive.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Because of the mycelium network.
That was it,
They can basically communicate, right? They send the equivalent of electronic pulses in the brain happens within this network.
And this isn't just over like 10 or 20 trees. This is the whole fucking forest.
Yeah.
It's like the internet before we discovered it, for trees. But then is a tree an intelligent being? Not that I'm aware of. It's just a plant. But if it's clever enough to talk to a tree that's fucking 2 miles down the road, then maybe we should pay attention more to what we're doing to them. I don't want to come across as a fucking tree hugger there, but you know what I mean?
I fucked a few trees in my days, right? Nothing wrong with it.
Okay, we can get onto that later.
It's one of them, and whether it's... again, we are not going to know the answer to that, whether it's intelligent, but it's about whether there are forces, because the rice thing, it's not about the rice, it's about our power in the words we're speaking to it. Yeah. So it's about whether there are forces at play that me or you or Hawking or anyone, like, that we can't explain. We cannot explain, but this is, I suppose, that's the beauty of life. There's so many things that are unexplainable. And I just want to go, if you don't mind, just go back to what you say about like how you need, and when I say you need an experience, that was more that, not that you need an experience, it was more that in order to change your perspective, you have to live something that is going to make you believe it enough. That's what I suppose I meant by that.
What I was getting at is more, if I want to definitively believe in something, I will test it. And then I'll go, okay, I've done this, so I've got my own evidence to prove my own belief there. Yes. But what I'm saying is, but I'm also open to the fact that if I haven't tested it, I can't prove or disprove it, which means I shouldn't believe it or disbelieve it.
Yeah.
Which is why, when it comes to religion, I'm not against it. I choose not to really follow anything specific, but do I think that there's something else other than us that is a bigger being? So probably. The problem fucking is that this doesn't happen out of nothing. There is this kind of soup bowl kind of concept, the Big Bang and everything, cool. But then there's this topic that I read about in one of Hawking's books, actually. What was before the Big Bang then? No one can answer that. Like, there's all these other things that even the scientists still argue about. But really, when it comes down to it, I think most people like to believe that there is this stuff out there because it means that the life isn't so dull and just go to work. It means that there is something else. A lot of people fall into religion when they're getting older because it's nice, it's comforting. It's horrible to think of, but it is. It's comforting to think that something happens after death.
But how mad that people have to get to a point in life where they see the finiteness of themselves for them to be like, oh, you know what? Now I would like to believe in something. Imagine if they've believed in it from much earlier on.
And too late, Gary. You've fucked up for the past 60 years. You can't wake up for it now.
So this was me, right? I've been in loads of different circles here, and I've heard many of these things, but I was about like a collective consciousness, and I've been like, that sounds great, sounds lovely, Barbara, but until I experience something, it's just a concept. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring this back to Mexico quickly and just talk about the plant medicines, right? Mm-hmm. Now I've tried them all at different points. I don't think they should be abused or jumped into without thought. So I could ayahuasca, for instance, I could have tried 15, 20 times over the 9 months if I wanted to. I didn't. I actually only did ayahuasca once because I wasn't feeling called to it apart from that one time. And the one time that I did ayahuasca, I had very little effect. You tend to purge, so you'll drink the brew, and you will usually after a little while you'll purge, and they can say it's like an energetic purge. This is again, you can ask what you're throwing up, and sometimes it can be shame, it can be guilt.
So by purge, you mean throw up?
Throw up, yeah. Okay. Some people come out the other end. It just depends.
Don't sit next to them when you're going on your journey. Right?
But yes, and it didn't do that much for me. I actually had a really connecting experience with the people around me. I got up and I was playing bongos. They have people doing medicine music, like Alex and Esme. They're incredible musicians and singers, and they will do they will play indigenous music. Alex is from like a tribe from the southern jungles of Mexico. Okay. So he's like got this really indigenous vibe about him, super mystical. He's a similar age to me, a bit younger, but
a weird question, more for me really. What kind of instruments do they use with that?
Oh, everything. So generally he will play, like Esme has the most incredible voice. I'll show you some of her. She's recorded some music. I'll show you in a minute. But Alex plays guitar. He plays everything. He's recently started playing violin. They have. They do sound therapy as well. So they have like hand pans. They have singing bowls. They have that's better singing bowls. They have is it a lute? I think he has a lute.
Small kind
of. He has like a Native American flutes. Okay. They have different sorts of like rattles, shamanic drums is a big one. And obviously I've come from a percussion background, so there's a few times I've been with them playing the drums, like not playing the drum kit, but playing the bongos or the djembe or shamanic drum for the ceremonies that are going on.
Oh, really?
And during that ceremony that I did of ayahuasca, I was like, I just wanted to come and play the bongos. So I'm up there and I'm jamming out, mate.
You've always been a rhythmical person.
I loved it. I mean, I'm looking right now at a poster that from a gig that we went to back in the day, Scott Matthews, which was really like a really good intimate gig. Yeah. And he said, I remember him saying, "Does anyone play the djembe?"
Oh shit!
And you were like, put your fucking hand up, and I'm like, yeah, mate. And I'd played the drum. I played the drum kit at the time. I don't think I'd ever played a djembe. And he was like, oh, come up on stage. And then this other one lad came up. We actually have a drum off, and I'm just like jamming out on it. And then he'd obviously had some practice, right? And he was super rhythmic and melodic, and like it was like some meditative drumming. And I'm like, you won this, mate. He got to play with him for a few songs, right? Yeah. And I'd be lying if I said I weren't jealous of this guy, but.
If you went back now, we'd have to go to another one.
Yeah, you know what? I might have a bit more to offer in that space now.
I've just got to say, from an audio engineering perspective, all the instruments you've just described to me sound like a nightmare to mic up.
I want to speak to you about some of the ones that I've got, to be fair. So so anyway, so I did that. I had a really connecting experience with Kim, with our dog Choco, who is
love Choco.
He's a Mexican street dog who turned up 3 weeks after we got there. We got very, very attached to, and we ended up bringing back to England.
Can I just, for those that are listening that obviously don't know, he's fucking huge. He's massive.
He's massive. He's a Weimaraner, and all the street dogs over there, I mean, they let them live on the street, because if they send them to the shelter, they'll just put them down. But they're all bust up, mate. They're missing. They're like blind in one eye. They're missing ears. They've got their, like, when they've had so many pups, they've got like these long dog nipples. And he comes, and he is like the most. He was skinny. He was skinny and bony, and he was covered in fleas. But he was the most beautiful, pure breed Weimaraner as a street dog, and he was so. It was. This is the other thing. This is another part of the magic of that place, right? Is that dog found us, and there was like there's more than just he's a nice dog. We were never going to bring him home, but there was like something that is just we couldn't leave him there.
It's cool that you did though. Now,
it's great.
Yeah,
it's my firstborn, mate. My firstborn. So I ask us, I had this experience. There's not that much to say about it for me, but in the same thing, I had people like there's a lad who was a volunteer there, and a lot of the people who would come to the retreat, he was crying for some he had like a dark past, right? Some things that had gone, and he was crying, and people were like surrounding him, just like showing him like the most amazing support. And it was like they were sharing the weight of his burdens.
Was a group collectively then? Okay.
Yeah, not everyone, but like certain people will gravitate there. There was somebody who was like he was crying out. He was this grown man, this large.
Okay, start again. Sorry, my bad. So you were saying that they were gathering round and kind of sharing collectively his
pain, right? There's another guy who was like, he was crying he was a grown man, a big bloke, crying in this huddle. He said afterwards he felt like he's the boy version of himself. And the shaman came up to him and put his hand around him, and he said he felt like he was being hugged by his father that he'd never had, and just all this mad stuff. So it wasn't like I didn't experience anything, and it was because of what I'd consumed. Because I drank 3 cups of this stuff, right, which was on the upper end of what most people were.
You've never done anything by halves, have you?
all I wanted to do, and this is the thing for me. I want these experiences because I almost want to believe something beyond what I currently do. I really felt that then, but I didn't get what I wanted. Now, if we go to Samadhi, I had Samadhi. I think I did 3 experiences with Mr. Samadhi, and the first one was very trippy. I felt like I had my blindfold on, and as I was going deep into it, I felt my whole body turn to dust, to bone, and then dust. And then I was almost reborn from the ashes of that, right?
Oh shit! You became a shapeshifter.
it was the maddest thing. And then afterwards, like I remember there were a pot of flowers in the middle circle of this of the Oksho pot, right? And I saw these flowers die and come back to life. But it takes you on like this journey, and it's like everything's. It's like, oh, I felt this, I saw that, but it's not about that. It's about how you feel inside. Like what, at the time, I was kind of like, what the, I had, I wasn't super low, but I was having some maybe like nihilistic views. Like, what's the point in this? What's the point in that? Because I wanted to believe in something more. And just in that, it was telling me that like you are filled with life right now. Look at your body, you're filled with life. And one day, you're going to be bone, and then you're going to be a pile of fucking dust in the ground. Well, here's what that is. And now, boom, now you're back into life. So what are you going to do with it? It was like a lesson that, and this is the thing, you don't know what lessons you're going to have. Maybe it's nothing, but you have to be open to it. And then it's about, these things are great, but then it's about what do you do with that? It's about integration. You have to take that with you and remind yourself of the lessons. Now, that was probably the most profound experience I'd had at that point. Then I tried Bufo. Now, Bufo is the one that I said blows you through the roof, right?
Yeah.
The first time I did Bufo, Kimberly had done it, had been in the circle before me, and I said, do you want to go before or after me? Now, when people are on Bufo, they can have really tame experiences, and I remember watching this woman once called Mariana, and she was in this zone. She wasn't, you're out of your body completely, so whatever's going on before you can't see a lot of the time. And she was hugging herself and she was going, Mariana, mi amor, which is like my love. She was just giving herself love. But I've also seen a man going barrel rolling like a crocodile, and you had people around. There's always support. There's people around him. If he's ever in any danger.
I've seen some videos,
and he's losing his shit, mate. Now, Kimberly was before me, and I'm not going to tell you about her. Her experience is hers to tell, but let's just say she was very animated.
Well, she's welcome on to do a podcast if she wants.
She would love it, mate. She actually would. She was very animated, and it was very scary to see. But I had people around me, and they were like, "You just like we've got her." I tried to help at one point. They were like, "No, we've got her. You just need. The best thing to do is let it be." But it freaked me the fuck out, and I don't know if that affected my trip afterwards. But when I smoked it, I never left my body. They were playing all this music around me, and it was like I'd calmed down from watching that, and it was like they were playing a note, and it was making my arm ping, like upwards in the air. I'm lay down, and it made my leg lift up in the air, and I'm laughing. And I remember there was a girl who was a volunteer, and she'd been freaked out by all the animated and the screaming and that, and she said, "Oh, I'm too scared to do it, but if I did it, I want Matt's trip." And I'm thinking that was nice, right? But that's not. I didn't want to do this for nice. I wanted to do this like I wanted this out of body. I wanted to see something beyond myself.
You wanted a fucking journey, right?
And so again, because you cannot just fuck with this shit willy nilly. I waited for a few months, and then when an opportunity came around again, I was like, you know what? I would like to try Bufo again. I made sure this time there was no fiance to go before me. It was just me in the room. I really concentrated on my breathing before. I was doing some breath work beforehand just to kind of get myself in the zone. And I kid you not, so you're sat up, you're on the floor, but you sat up and you're inhaling from this pipe after he's burnt it. And he's like, right, inhale, 10% more, 20% more, 30% more, 40% more. And then he'll put his hand over your mouth and your nose. And he'll lay you back onto the ground. And I told you these wood beams in a spiral on the ceiling of this house, right? And before my head has hit the ground, I have blasted off. I've left my body, right? Whatever's going on in the physical, I haven't got a fucking clue. It doesn't matter. But I have, and I've had really profound experiences on out of body experiences on ketamine in the past, right? Yeah. Like they use that as a therapeutic drug nowadays in many settings. Yeah. I did not use it therapeutically. I mean, maybe I did, but it wasn't my intention. But
to the sense of the podcast, say you did.
And it's like you have to surrender, and so I've always been quite good at surrendering when I need to. And so in that, I could have thought that, and that could have been a really uncomfortable thing. But that uncomfortable thing, I was like, no, I was basically like, whatever's meant here, like I'm ready for it. I surrender. It's fine. Just take me through this. I know that I'll come back at the end of it. And so I didn't have to go through this uncomfortable thing. I don't know if it's because of that.
I think what you've just touched on there is a big part of psychedelics in general. You hear all the horror stories from people that have just gone, oh yeah, I had some acid, but I was in the middle of the town centre and then I fell into a poundland and then my ass fell out. It's such a bad environment to do it in, and I think a lot of people get put off doing these experiences because of those stories. But when you're in an environment like that where you've got these people that are there to help and you've got the shamans that know exactly what's going through it, you're more likely to let it take you on the fucking rocket like you did and just kind of let it happen rather than fight. Because when you fight those kind of experiences, it can exacerbate either in a good way or a bad way. It doesn't matter. If you're fighting it, it's just going to get more intense in that way.
And if you if you're doing something that takes you out of reality, but you're clinging on to reality, then you end up in this like no man's like purgatory fucking thing where you're not in one or the other, but they're clashing. They're both coming at you, but they don't belong together.
I've got a fucking question for you now then, man. You've touched on the wanting to leave your body and the reality. You kept saying the word reality there. What do you think is actually happening when you're having these experiences? Like, and I'm not saying it in like a trick question kind of way. I'm saying some people believe that those drugs or those herbs, plants, whatever you want to call them, are actually a gateway to another.
So I'll tell you what happened with it, and then I'll tell you my answer to that.
Okay.
So I've shot up and I've gone through this difficult thing, and then all of a sudden, everything has disintegrated, and I'm in what I can kind of describe. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope, right? But not as hectic as that. And it's just a white background, and everything, all these little pink dots, these pink specks, and everything is existing in perfect symmetry and at the same time as being complete chaos. So it's like everything aligns perfectly, but also it's so chaotic. But but that's meant to be there, and that's perfectly reflective of this area. And I don't know. It's difficult to sometimes put these things into words, but it was those two things parallel, right? And you'll get like they say, call it like a download, right? Like you're just a knowing of like what this means. And it was telling me that this is every single one of these pink specks is a soul. I wasn't my body at this point. I was a pink speck. I was one of these pink specks looking at all these pink specks. And every one of these is a soul that exists in our world.
In our realm.
In our existence. And it was the first time that I've had what I had wanted, because it was showing me that we are this collective consciousness. I am just a speck that is part of this collective consciousness that all souls are part of.
Okay.
And I just existed there for a little while. And time, I don't know how long I was there. It didn't fit. It wasn't scary.
Do you realise what you're saying? That you're essentially saying, I finally had the experience I wanted. I met the maker and got a few answers. That's basically what you're saying.
I don't know about met the maker. I got the experience, but because it was just, it's almost like we are all part of that. I don't know if you want to say maker, existence, consciousness. Consciousness is the word that kind of screams out to me in that space.
Yeah.
And then, however long I was there, I zoom back and bosh, I'm back in my body. And I'm like, whoa. And then the shaman's like now beside me, they're playing music and he's just smiling and everything had 10% more colour. I saw him for what he does, probably more so than any other moment, right? Because just felt a connection there. I was like, I was thinking, I understand why you do what you do now.
Yeah.
Because he's still a man, right? He's not a prophet. He's not he's not God. He's not this, that, and the other. And he knows that. He's imperfect. He's human, right? But I understood why he does what he does more than any other time. Even though I'd seen loads of things and people had told me a million things, I understood then. Now on the physical, so then I came back and like that's the main.
How long did it feel and how long was it actually?
Time didn't exist for me.
That's what I mean. So did it feel like 3 years, but actually it was 10 minutes? Right?
No, I think people can have experiences like that, but for me, no, there wasn't any particularly like, oh, it's this long. In reality, it was about 7-8 minutes, I think. And in reality, I was on the floor, and a few times I beat my chest like a gorilla. I spat like a viper snake, 9 foot directly in the air, which apparently the shaman tried to catch in his cup first time, but then he was like, no, did that a couple of times. And that was it.
Foot is very specific.
Well, it's just what I'm told. It's what I'm told. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean that's that was something that I wanted. And after that, I didn't do any more plant medicine for the rest of my time there. Didn't need to. I saw loads more ceremonies, saw loads of other transformations, but
I feel like you got the answer you wanted.
Yeah, I did the mushrooms because I enjoy.
Get you through the weekend,
Well, you know what? That was one of the best mushroom trips I've ever done because I went and just sat with the donkeys for a couple of hours. And have you ever taken 4 grams of mushrooms and played with a donkey's lips?
So let's just for those listeners, he took 4 grams of mushrooms and went and sat and played with Twinkie's lips.
Not Twinkie. I told you, Twinkie's vicious. Jesus.
Jesus. That's so wrong on so many levels. So just going back to my original question then, what do you think it's actually doing? Do you think it is just a drug effect, like you get drunk and you have a different experience, you wake up the next day with a hangover? Or do you think it is actually like a gateway to some other realm, some communication with something else that we're not aware of?
I think it allows you into an intelligence that's beyond our existence. I think it's
a
gateway.
Our intelligence?
Yes, because essentially, like through the story I just told you, it's one and the same. So we're not. So imagine that. Imagine that concept of us being all pink specks, and we only know this little dot that is amongst this vast space. But we're connected to it all. But we only know about this little dot.
I've got a really cheesy way of saying it. It's like we were saying with the mycelium. We are each a tree, and we're unaware that we're connected to all the other trees.
Yes.
But taking the drugs is actually letting us see under the.
Absolutely. I'm going to say we are each a mushroom.
Okay, yeah. I felt stronger if I said tree, but
but yeah, man, like and so I had that, and it was like something that I'd been wanting for ages, and it put a load of stuff into perspective for me. And that's like this thing we speak about now. Like someone can come and they can tell me, oh, it's this and that and the other. I don't care because I've had an experience that creates a truth for me. or unknowing for me. So anyone can say whatever they want. I'd never be offended. I couldn't give two fucks, mate. And you can think the same. You can think that times 10, or you can not believe in it at all.
I think anybody that just completely shuns it to one side is extremely narrow-minded, and it's probably not worth the time.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's people will learn different things at different times in their life, and we're not all meant to be the same. We're not all meant to be the same. We're not all meant to think the same. How fucking boring would that be if we all just thought the same way and there was one universal truth? Okay, so we're just going to live on this straight path that everyone does in the same fucking space.
Well, I mean, that does beg the question. You've spoken about this whole journey very fondly. Obviously, there's been ups and downs. Ups and downs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you why you came back.
You can ask me.
I don't know. It's up to you if you want to say. What I would say is, where would you rather actually be? Would you rather be back here in rainy UK, or would you rather be there continuing? Do you feel like basically you did your time there and it was really worth it, and you were so happy that Kim had this impulse and your logic helped manifest it and it happened and it was meant to be, so that now you are the person who you are and you got your answers? So you wish you could have stayed?
In essence, yeah. So when we left, we could have stayed. We knew somebody who could basically forge documents to allow us to be Mexican citizens if we wanted. Honestly,
fucking hell,
it's another world, and it is another world. With the lady who ran it, she absolutely loved me and Kim to pieces. She wanted to take a step back so that she could dip in and out when she wanted, but she wanted somebody else to run the finca, and she offered to allow us to run the finca, take her house, which was a nice house. And manage the whole thing. Obviously, we'd need to brush up on our Spanish a bit more than we had, but we had other people who could help. And she said that that's a possible timeline, but we'd been away for over 4 years at this time, right? And it was just the right time to go back. I think do I wish I was there? There's things I miss about it, but no, I think that's there. I know people who were there. And it's different. It's different now than it was when we were there, and it'll be different in another few years. We've come back. We were going to come back for a little while, and we were going to go on a travel somewhere else again. Kimmy got pregnant, had a baby. She's nearly 1, which
seems baby.
Seems mad. She's nearly 1 year old, right?
That's fast.
That's super fast. And so that just happens. I've been doing stuff. I've been using the stuff that I have learned since I've been back to. The question that I keep coming back to is is what you're doing useful? And it's to be useful or of service to people around me.
Okay.
So,
can I just, before we go into it, I can see where you're going with this.
Go on.
Before we go off it, Haid, who did the last podcast, has messaged me saying he's got a question because he knew what we were going to be talking about.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Big up, Haid, by the way. I like your podcast, mate.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, he did send me one question as a joke, and I kind of want to read it out. He'll be really pissed off that I did. I was like, oh yeah, just any question you want. Where is it? Let's have a scroll. Do you ever eat a sausage and mayonnaise sandwich and feel gay afterwards? That was his initial response, and I was like, you did such a serious podcast, and then you come back with that.
Right. Who's putting mayonnaise on a sausage sandwich?
Exactly my
Come
thoughts.
on. Come on, mate.
No, his actual question was really good. It's just, what is your most memorable experiences from your whole travels, either good or bad?
Oh, I can't narrow it down. I can just reel off a few that come to mind. Because to say one ultimate, I don't know.
Yeah, it would be tricky.
Proposing to Kim.
Oh, you soppy git.
No, honestly, I loved it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've been together 10 years next year.
Is it 10 years?
10 years next year.
Oh, shit.
And that was just a really do you know what I mean? Everything we're doing together. We went away for so many years, and it was just me and her. So it's hard to come back and you're around family again. People start asking things of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult because we were so used to it just being me and her on the other side of the world, and no one's asking anything.
You just look after each other, and now it's like not just with the little one. It's looking after your extended family as well, and keeping up appearances, and it does get tricky.
So that's got to be one. Basically, after we proposed, we took the car and we went and stayed in Tequila for a couple of days. So
nice.
we went because that's not too far from where we were staying. So that was nice. what the Bufo experience I just told you about would be definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
be
I
one.
thought that would be your answer, to be honest.
There were a lot of times where, as a community of volunteers in Mexico, we sit around the fire, no substances, nothing like that, and we'd just play music, and we'd sing together, and we'd drum, and we'd just laugh and have a joke, and that was just like if I could go back to a setting just for like a day, then I would just choose that. I wouldn't choose any of these mad fucking blow your brains off things. I'll go back and I'll be around my Mexican family. That is, and we just jam out and we just chill out together.
It is weird how people have these kind of like bookmarks in life that they would always go, yeah, I'd love to just be in that one scenario again. That was the pinnacle throughout the years. I've got a few of them.
And then how mad they're people are all over the world now, so we're all from different places.
That's cool though.
I've got that. There's a whole host of things probably in Australia. I used to, living on Bondi Beach and going for a swim in the morning, going to the best coffee shop that I've ever been to on Bondi Beach called Burchino. If you're ever there, it's delicious. I didn't even like coffee much before that place, mate. And going for a morning swim. Or going to watch the sunrise at 6 a.m. and then going for a morning swim when it's icy cold in the water, but the sun's just coming up. Like what? There's no better way to start your day.
It sounds like bliss, to be honest.
Loved it. So, and there's just friends that I've made along the way, man. But
some of the experience. I mean, that's a good answer. I'm pretty sure I hate to listen to this right now. Going, I can't believe you said the same.
I hope that's enough. For him
right. Going back to what you were about to lead into, because I don't want to cut you off. You've said that you've taken all of this stuff that you've experienced. That, if I'm honest, I hope people listen to this and they're really into it, because I've listened to you for like 2 hours here, and it's not been boring at all, because I'm going, this is the shit that I didn't get to do. You know, and I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there that feel the same. So to hear your experience of it is really interesting, to get a perspective from someone that's done it. But you were saying you've taken all of this now, and now you're trying to let it mold your approach to living here.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what that entails.
Okay, so when I came back, I knew that I wanted to do. So I've been living in these spiritual communities, and I knew I wanted to bring a bit of that back. But I've always thought of myself in that space as some sort of hybrid, because you usually get you're either completely against it and very logical, or you're completely airy-fairy. We call it like New Age spirituality, which is like, oh, let me just ask the crystals for my answer, or let me know this, and like love and light, the love and light community, you know, the sort.
Love and light, okay.
And I've been around some of these people, and there's, you know, lovely people everywhere you go, but I'm just like, that's not real, mate. Life is raw, life is a bit gritty, and there is love and there's light, but there's also fucking pain and death and shit and fucking like, and so and everything in between, and you can't just smile at everything. So I've always thought of myself in this space as like a hybrid. Just with this is none. So I just have to give a shout out here to Kimmy, because she's super like, she's a qualified art therapist, which is not just painting. It's painting, it's drama, it's singing, it's meditation, it's all of these different disciplines, and she's run classes out there, and she's very much of the same. Do you know what I mean? Where the point at which I've come to wouldn't exist without her.
Yeah.
Because
I don't see you as individuals. I see you as like this one entity, really. I don't know if that's because of what we've been speaking about. But
well, it happens a lot, and I don't know. They know that they will say a woman is your muse a lot of the time, but
she is, if she's listening.
She's led me into spirituality, even though she was all over this kind of shit. When I thought, I'm like you, I've always been open minded and like, but I weren't on that thing at the same time. Do you know what I mean? And so together we've kind of, she's very raw and real as well. So together, when we've ran things, we've been able to kind of bridge the gap between the new age airy fairiness and the real world. People who would never even step foot in that space.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to do when I came back was men's work.
You mentioned this to me earlier. I've never heard of even the word, let alone what it is.
So it's basically any sort of space where men can show up for each other. Like we can get loads from different connections in our life, but there are certain things that as a man you can only get from another man. And there's loads of texts, scientific, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, that will go into this in more detail. I'll tell you about a couple of books after this. But so when I was in, particularly when I was in Mexico, you realise that the culture is very different with men, and they will. We've got a really bantery culture over here, very similar to Australia. We'll take the piss out of each other, even if we love the person. We'll take the piss, and we'll like.
Yeah, you prick.
When do people say really nice things to each other? Do you know
I
what I mean?
complimented your hat when you got it.
No, I'm not.
Come on, man.
You actually did. I appreciate that. But people in Latin America and many other places, they'll tell their friends that they love them. They'll ask them deeper questions about what's going on. When they tell them, they'll pick them up and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I experienced some of that, and I got mates who are like that, and I'm like, that's not something that really exists. But I'd love to be able to bring that and other things that I know about into a space in the UK. So I came back and I went to a men's circle, and I was looking for them. I went to one in Shrewsbury, and I went over, and there was me and two blokes there, and they were both about 60, level 5 Reiki masters, and they were nice blokes, but they did this thing, and they were playing this shamanic drum, and then they started asking questions, but I felt like I was there as this new person, completely out of my comfort zone, and they were like being really reserved. And I was thinking, this ain't the fucking one. And I felt like they were this love and light space that there's nothing wrong with it if that's you, but it ain't me. Anyway, so I put it on the back burner for a bit, and then the missus again, she says, "Have you seen this space? Have you seen this Facebook? They're called the Mandem Meetup."
The Mandem Meetup.
The Mandem Meetup.
Is this the stories I've seen? Kind of it's like a circular room, isn't it?
So they have it's like a dome tent, right?
Yeah.
There's a place called Little Earth in Wolverhampton.
Okay.
And they have the big dome tent. They have yurts there. They have a sauna. They have it's like a version of the Finca that exists in Wolverhampton, which is quite mad. Minus the horses. It's not the same, but it's like. They have. I
love how you said minus the horses. They still have the donkeys, then.
No, they do not have the donkeys. And people don't live there, but they use it for events and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, so she sent me this link to the Mandem Meetup, and so I sent them a message on Instagram. And they said, "Oh yeah, come to one of our meetups." I went on a Wednesday. It's called Work In, Work Out. And it's basically, the concept is quite simple. We do a workout together, which at the time was a boxing workout.
Okay.
A guy called Christian, he ran it. He's a professional boxing coach, does it for his full time, works with kids, doing boxing training. And so he ran us through a workout, and then afterwards we did a work in, which can be anything. It can be, I think that day was a meditation ran by one of the other lads who runs it, called Jamie.
Nice.
I think he had his crystal singing bowls. I ran a meditation, and your man is like a channel. He will just speak words of wisdom and encouragement and like empowerment.
Yeah.
Just off the cuff, mate. And he'll run this meditation, and then it's just like, so this is the thing, we're told as men to like work out, to like get endorphins flowing, get some testosterone build, but we're not told so frequently to work in to ease the mind. But how many men do you know that, like, if you look at men's suicide, right? How many men are just choosing to top themselves because they're not taught to go into their mind to face their shit. And so Mandem Meetup as a whole, it's a men's mental health charity. They do work in, work out. They do regular hikes where they go all around the country, hike some incredible places. They do football training on a Monday. They do talking circles a couple of times a month. Sometimes they do a family day. They do all sorts of things, and everything you go to is free. They don't charge you anything for any of it. And it's like, it's not, we touched on charities earlier in this.
Yeah, I was.
So now this is like the ethical kind of charity that I'm talking about, because your men who are running it, and there's only two, so bear in mind, there's only two groups at the moment. I'm sure there'll be more in the future.
Yeah.
Originated in Manchester, and it's also in Wolverhampton, because the two lads who run it, Jamie and Christian, I think they know the man who founded it in Manchester, and then they brought it into there. And in Wolverhampton, there's a community of over 200 blokes now who go to all these. They all go to different events regularly. But yeah, so in terms of the ethicality of it, like these people, they're still working their jobs, labouring. They're not flash, and if they were, do you know, I think great things are probably coming for them because they're doing something that is really helping many people around them.
Do you know, that hits home with me on a personal level, but I think with a lot of blokes. Because I do agree, it's a lot of, it's not even, I mean, there's the whole Jordan Peterson side of things where they're saying, you know, I'm not going into that. Right? Yeah, Peterson's great. I've got his book in there if you want to. But yes, we're taught, go work out, release some endorphins, you'll feel better that way, but also get some testosterone, be a man, or go to work, don't moan, get on with it, make sure your family's provided for, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yes, we're not taught how to decompress.
Exactly.
And I guess that's where coping mechanisms come out of a lot of people. Oh, I'll go down the pub, I'll have a pint. But we all know it's probably not the best. You're seeing a lot more of people our age these days don't drink, or they obviously they drink a lot less than their parents, you know. And I think everyone has their own way of doing it. On a personal level, past 5-6 years for me, been very busy. And Kay, you know how you're shouting out Kim all the time. Kay's the only one that's made me. She'd let me vent at times. There's been me stood at the end of the bed ranting for an hour straight, and she's just looking at me, nodding, going, "Yeah." But she's also playing devil's advocate with me. She's telling me if I'm being unreasonable or a knob, you know, and I've come up with my own methods. You know, I've had to kind of realise. I mean, talking is like one of the best things for me anyway. Just kind of saying okay, but she's done breathing techniques with me because obviously doing what she does, breathing's a real big part of it.
Yeah, as a singing teacher, absolutely.
So, but then she's taught me that there's some things that Andrew Huberman has put on there as well, like breathing in certain ways that just kind of keep me calm. And obviously, I've just quit smoking and stuff, so anxiety through the roof. That's part of the reason my ear went. It's because of that stress and stuff. But and it's a massive thing being able to know not just how to decompress, but when you're becoming compressed. That's the one thing I've noticed. People don't realise that they're starting to get more stressed and more stressed and more stressed and more stressed until they hit a tipping point and then it's gone. So it does sound interesting.
Those extremes. And so with this space, like I attended a few times, and then I said, look, like I think they said if anyone wants to run anything, I think I asked him the first time, like, could I run a session for the work in? And I'm trying to think what I did the first time. So I have the first time they said, yeah, we can run a session. I did. I ran a sound bath for them, so we did a workout. And then afterwards, I ran a sound bath for them, and I did something called vocal toning, which I'm going to speak to Kay after this. I'm sure she probably knows all about.
Probably, yeah.
But it's basically using the frequencies of these sound bowls and then using the frequencies that we create within ourselves through certain sounds as a group. To create just this fucking vortex of energy, right?
I guess, are you playing on resonances when you do that? This is where the scientific mind comes out.
So, yeah, but I think it's not so much like a specific. It's not as specific as that because everyone, all it is I'm going to say, for instance, the sound, the note and the sound relate to a chakra. So everything relates to the vibration of the sound, the vibration of your voice, and then the spirituality concept of a chakra, which is basically just a point in the body where energy enters and leaves in its most simple form.
So you're harmonizing with something.
Yes. So the sound for the heart chakra, which is an F. The note is an F on the singing bowl, and the sound is ah. And you can do that however you want. But I'll start it off, and all these people at the moment are going, ah, and some people are going to be really melodic, and they're going to be hitting notes, and some people are going to be sounding like rusty old nails, but it doesn't matter, because it's about getting that, it's about what you're feeling inside of you, yeah? So we did a bit of that, and then I got like, let them all relax, and I did a sound bath where they can just lie back, put a blindfold on, and play with a number of instruments. I've done a breathwork, and then I've done a couple of other sessions. I did a breathwork meditation, which was an Osho meditation that I learned in Mexico. It had a really profound effect on me when I did it over there, some of the feedback, everyone has different things, but some of the feedback when I ran this meditation, certain people are having like psychedelic visuals and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Some people have never done standing up breath work before. It's all these different things. So, and then most recently, I went there and there's a guy who I'd not met the guy, but I'd met his brother. So since I've been going there for about a year now, and since then, 2 of the blokes who go there have committed suicide.
What?
Now the first one, I'd never met either of them, to be honest, because everyone goes to different things at different times.
Yeah.
But I know it hit a lot of them really hard, and it was like raw. Now the second one, there was an event, there was a workout that was on the day after, and it ended up just being, I think you'd probably class it as a vigil, just a bit, because his brother was there, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it was so just raw, mate, how it was like really powerful just watching people in their pain, right? But like it was like a wake up call for everyone.
Yeah.
That even people who have this support thing, they're not using it. Like they don't always use it fully. Like everyone's vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's the thing. And so I went back the next week, and I originally planned to do something else as a session. Ended up doing some shadow work with them, which is where you will basically ask each other. I paired them up, and you will ask each other questions, vulnerable questions, that we can all answer. So, for instance, one of the questions was, "What are you not forgiving yourself for?" Which everyone can answer, right? But you get someone into a state, and they like somebody might ramble for fucking 2 hours. But these are the kind of things that we don't necessarily think out because we distract.
It's easier to put them on the shelf in your head and go, I don't want to think about that.
Or like you said before, you go down the pub, have a beer. The amount of people who go to this thing who used to be sesh heads, and they're like, I've knocked it all on the head. And you know what happens? The people who they used to knock about with that are still on that, they don't want to know when they're doing something for themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's just putting people in these situations where they're forced to speak in a safe setting, and they also, on top of that, are allowed to listen to another man share his deepest thoughts, vulnerable thoughts that is. So it's healing on both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I did a little sound bath afterwards because no one wants to just do that deep stuff. You want to be able to chill out for a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's class. And there's on the next month I'm running that same Osho meditation for another group that is basically happened, I believe, because of the Mandem. So there's a few other groups around the Midlands. There's one called Primals, and this one is called Shropshire Roots Brotherhood. They did a Wim Hof day not that long ago.
What's Wim Hof?
Wim Hof, the Iceman. Oh, he's like a breathwork. He's like the most famous breathwork guy.
Oh, okay.
And he's really into cold therapy as well. So we did a full day of doing breathing techniques, and we got in the ice bath. It was still quite warm at the time, but we got down to about 4 degrees. I think they had 100 kilos of ice in there, and you just have to get in there for a few minutes. I
think I have heard about it.
And then you have to do the whole stance afterwards, where you go. So yeah, I'm going to run the meditation for those guys in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'd love to. These things are all free, right? It's nice to feel useful. I still I'm figuring out what's next, right? Yeah. But it's nice to feel useful, and I believe if you just keep doing these things as an act of service, no real expectation other than to give back and to help, because what's the point in all our existence if we can't help next man, even if we don't fucking know him personally? Do you know what I mean? I don't know all the people that come to these things. I meet new people every time I go. Some of them I've built relationships with, and it's but if you can't give back, what's the point in us just all fucking ticking around on this earth? And my hope is that at some point it's going to materialise as something that I can step away from the job that doesn't really serve me. Do you know what I mean? I'm grateful for the work that I do, and what it provides me, but it doesn't it's not
fulfilling you.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same way. And it's a similar concept. The people that go out there and try and do anything musical because they want to be famous and they want to make lots of money tend to not do very well. The ones that are out there because they're passionate about it and they've got a fucking message because they've grew up in the hood or something and they've got something to fucking say.
Yeah.
Look, what happens? It's weird.
We grew up in the hood, didn't we? So.
GC. So I've already said to Hale, if we get me, you, Mitch, and him or something, we've got to call it a Save GC. Something like that,
And so like, I was thinking about that in terms of you've been putting music out there for a long time. I know you stuff yourself.
I haven't.
Well, you have probably not as this. Again, you're going to be your own worst critic in this.
But that's it. And I've just got to the point where I looked at Kay and just went, fuck it. Like, I paid for PRS, I paid for a distributor, and I've just gone, if I just sit here and constantly try and refine it and change it and make it what it needs to be, try and get it to perfect, I'm going to spend 10 years and nothing will be there to show for it. If I just do it and just get it out there, the next one might be 2% better than that one, but at least it's out there, and then just keep doing that. And in that 10 years, it will be not a linear thing, it will just be kind of a exponential curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just doing it. And doing
that's your
something.
passion. And this is the thing when we talk about like there's a lot that drives men in the purpose space, right?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you don't need to be all this. There's purpose in raising a family, having a child, all these things. I lived many years of my life just kind of floating about, being like, oh, maybe I'll do that, maybe I'll do that. I didn't know the reason why. I'm in a space now where I'm trying to just move towards something. I don't know if it's the experiences I've had, is it's recently having a child, if it's just the age, if it's just meant to be, whatever it is.
In the same sense, you earlier were saying that life isn't great. Life is a fucking journey. There's some shitty bits, there's some good bits.
Yeah. What do the Buddhists say, mate?
You are?
What do the Buddhists say?
I don't know.
Life is suffering.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. I mean, I know I've put on some pounds, but don't call me the Buddha. No, but do you not think these days, doing stuff like this and kind of failing and falling over and stuff and letting people see it is the only way I think I'm going to show my daughter what life really is, because she's going to grow up and just see online and think that life's rosy and perfect, and she'll struggle to understand that life isn't easy. And if she sees me struggling and fucking working and just doing something that I'm actually passionate about, rather than just, like you said, going to work because it pays the bills, who knows what could happen? It could go really well, but at least I've done what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So there's two things that I thought there, right, is that it's like people take much more from somebody that they can see has fallen and picked themselves back up many times. It doesn't need to be drastically, or I've been down in the trenches, but I did this and I failed, and guess what? I fucking learned from it. And then that's what most of the successful people in the world are from. Yeah. Than somebody who's just hit the nail on the head straight away.
Just won the lottery and then paid for a studio or something. Yeah.
And then it's you talk about children, right? Is whatever we do now, there are very, very few people in existence that are going to be remembered in 100 years' time. Three generations from now, people won't know my name.
So what if this podcast is still out there, mate? I'll make sure.
The only thing that we can really pass on, right, is values to the next generation that we affect, who will then morph that into their own perspective and pass that on to the next one that follows on from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you end up with Keir Starmer running the country and none of it means anything. What? Was that a really negative view to put on that? I completely agree. And that's the thing, though. I think nobody's written the book on how to be a parent, but no one's written the book on how to be a parent in this new age of technology and the internet.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, just as much as we aren't shown how to decompress, nobody's now shown how to live like human beings should be living, i.e. like you're doing there. We're all just living online, which is not how human beings should live.
No, it's mad, isn't it?
Which is such a weird concept. But I think it is what it is, and we're just going to do what we fucking enjoy and hope that it works. That's the best thing we can do. Yeah. I think that's a nice place to tie it up, mate, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, but I was hoping this was going to be a bit more back and forth. I am aware of this rambled on. But
I needed to get your journey out because it's been so long, and fuck me, what a journey. And I don't even feel like we've gone into the intricacies of some of the bits, but you've given us such a good overview of what's gone on, what you've done, who you are, and now what you're doing, that hopefully we can make this a periodic thing. Like once every couple of months you come back, I'll cook dinner, obviously, and you can tell us more about what's been going on with the men's groups and stuff. But It will be.
I'll have to get you to one of the sessions at some point as well.
I'm not opposed to it. It's trickier for me finding time.
Oh,
that's the only issue, isn't it?
There's no rush on it, but we'll sort something.
But right. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that was as interesting for you as it was for me. But until next time.
Peace.
Bridging the Gap Podcast.